What is going on, everyone? This is Miles Dompier, and welcome to the 110th episode of Xbox Chaturdays. Today, I'm stoked to be joined for the very first time by the man, the myth, the legend, NeoGameSpark. Neo, how you doing on this beautiful Saturday morning?
Oh man, I gotta say, I feel like I'm being wined and dined right now. I got a little bit of a blush going on. Like if y'all knew what we was talking about before the pre-show, this man Miles, he really know how to make a guest feel special. That's what I say. But yeah, my brother Miles, thank you so much. It is awesome to be kicking with you on a Saturday morning for you, right? Saturday morning for you, Saturday afternoon for here over on the East Coast, and I'm ready because we have got a lot of fun stuff to discuss.
Yes, I'm excited to have you on. You and I, we've joked on Twitter, we've shared some memes back and forth, but this is the first time that you and I get to sit down in the hot seat for an extended period of time and talk video games. So I'm excited. I've watched you on Podcast Unlocked. I've watched Ask Neo, so I'm familiar with you, but I haven't had a chance to really have a conversation with you. So I'm stoked, man. I appreciate you rocking with me on this Saturday.
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, it took a fair bit of time for us to make all of this happen. Especially because you know I'm very particular about what shows I go on, especially with folks who are fans of candy corn. Do I need that negativity in my life? Do I want to?
You want to start the show with this?
That's how I started, Miles. That's how we do it. No other guest will do it like me.
Okay, let me tell you, there are two kinds of people on this planet. There are people who have taste. And then there are people who hate candy corn. All right, that's it.
Taste and people like Miles. Yes, I agree.
Yeah. Candy corn. Don't get me wrong. I understand why people think it's disgusting. I only have maybe 10 to 15 pieces per year, but those 10 to 15 pieces, oh man, it's heaven. All right, it's heavenly. It's transcendent. And then I have to scrub my teeth because I can feel them decaying. The second that candy corn kernel hits my tooth, I can feel the rot. But it's worth it, man. It's worth it. Let me tell you.
It kind of sounds like you're having a civil war with yourself when it comes down to justifying candy corn. It's like,
it's about how it makes you feel, all right? And it makes me feel just whole, all right? It makes me feel whole. So I will not tolerate candy corn slander. I think there's a lot of phonies online who amplify this candy corn hate, all right? If you want to hate circus peanuts, go for it. Have a field day, all right? I get it, but candy corn, that's an American pastime.
I thought it was burgers and hot dogs. But okay, you know what? If you like it, I love it, Miles. I love that for you, my brother.
But we have a lot.
I will say this: if they make sour candy corn, I might mess around with that. We'll see what happens.
Sour candy, okay, all right. Well, yeah, I'll dabble. We have a lot to talk about. Obviously, it's been a huge week for video games. We had the Xbox Game Showcase 2023. We had the extended Xbox Game Showcase. We had Ubisoft Forward. We had a Capcom Showcase. We had so much in terms of new game announcements, new reveals, and updates to games we've been waiting for. So there's a lot. It's an amazing week to have a podcast. It's an amazing week to have an Xbox-centric podcast. But before we get into all of that, this is your first time on the show, so I got to run you through the gauntlet here. I need you to let people watching live and listening after the fact know who you are, where they can find you, and last but not least, why you love video games.
Absolutely. So I'm gonna make this very simple for y'all. My name is NeoGameSpark. I am a YouTuber. I'm a streamer, content creator, whatever disambiguation, whatever you want to call me. You can find me on youtube.com/NeoGameSpark. You can find me on twitter.com/NeoGameSpark. That's where I frolic and I like to post my lukewarm to hot takes.
Oh, hot takes.
Because it can get a little spicy over there. Sometimes it's pretty lukewarm, like, okay, that's expected. Then other times I just shoot for the fences, man. But yeah, to answer your, the age-old question about why do you love video games? Why do I love video games? Honest to God, Miles, I love video games because they're fucking amazing, bro. Video games are fucking amazing. There's just something that, and listen, I love all forms of entertainment, whether it's reading for pleasure, personal development, watching movies, television shows, but there's just something about gaming that is just, it's so instinctively unique to this medium where you could just literally lose yourself for hours upon hours in so many different worlds, so many different ways to play, so many different forms of entertainment, pleasure that you can gain, whether it's single player, whether it's co-op, whether it's just things that remind you of old, things that remind you of now, things that give you a glimpse of the future. There's just so much to love about gaming. And as we see as it expands with new technologies and different ways to play and different ways to experience, it's just there's always something interesting and fun to have. And it's just one of those mediums that even if they might not make particular genres you love, you can always find something because there's always going to be a creative out there who is crafting experience that you might not even know you love until you try it out. And that's why gaming is so cool to me.
Yeah, that's beautifully said. A lot of us, I think, love video games for that exact reason. The moment where we experienced a title or a video game that was unlike anything we've seen before, unlike any other experience we've had. You've mentioned music and films being impactful, and they really are. We've all had really important experiences with films and music, but there's something about the way that we connect physically and emotionally and mentally with a video game that can't be replicated in any other medium. And so there is power to that. There is weight to that. And as it gets more and more popular and mainstream, I guess, it's exciting because I want more people to recognize those experiences and not necessarily write off video games as it used to be. Video games were a toy for kids, and that was it. There was no artistic value. There was no artistic discourse surrounding them. That was just a toy. But now we are in a state where video games are some of the most important pieces of media that exist from an artistic perspective, from a social impact perspective, and there's a lot of just beautiful moments that we can all share together. Is there one particular video game you can point to that was the moment where you said, yeah, I'm all in on video games? If this is what video games are, then I want more of this for the rest of my life.
Man, so my answer is going to be kind of different by comparison to, I guess, like most people how they answer it. A lot of people point to that first game that showed them what was possible when it comes down to gaming. For me, like I have those games, like growing up in my childhood, playing things like, Zelda Ocarina of Time, going through things like Kingdom Hearts, and of course, as you get new systems, you see the graphical boundaries keep getting pushed and pushed. But to me, what one particular game that just showed me what was possible from a narrative point of view, and this is a game that like the more time passes I feel so like I get so like more attached to it, was Chrono Trigger. Chrono Trigger, for those who don't know, is a Japanese role-playing game from Square Enix. It came out in the 1990s, and that game and what they were able to pull off with that storytelling for that time was absolutely insane to me. And it's one of those games that I replay it every couple of years just to see, like, do I still love this the same way? And every single time I go back to it, I love it even more and I appreciate it more. So Chrono Trigger is one of those games for its story. And then you have more like modern games, of course, like BioShock, how it took storytelling and it switched it up, so it wasn't necessarily everything that you see from cutscene to cutscene. It was about everything in the world surrounding it, from the audio recordings, the diaries that are there, and then some of the games that really help you craft your own story, like games like Mass Effect, where choice comes into the mix and every single playthrough you have could be unique to you. So yeah, I'm a big proponent of games that really immerse you in that experience, where every single choice that you make, it matters. Even if it's not like, okay, drastically changing of the story, it's just those character dynamics that you get. Like, oh, I spent a lot of time with this person, so our relationship grew. And then you see something from that. You're rewarded from it, which is part of the reason why I love Persona, just maxing out all the social links and the confidants and things like that, because you feel like you are truly more a part of the experience. So yeah, games Chrono Trigger was that game for me when I was younger because of the way it told its story and its narrative. And now it's just how we're seeing games go deeper and deeper with the character interactions and the story. And of course, more recently, Zelda, with how they handle the gameplay and how it's like anything is possible.
Yeah, that is, again, the main reason so many of us stay fixated on video games, because we all have the one moment we can point to, Chrono Trigger being an amazing shout, because at that time, a lot of us were playing video games, and Mario was dope. Super Mario World, one of my favorite games of all time, but it didn't really have a compelling story, and I didn't really expect video games to have a compelling story at that moment in time. And then you play something like Chrono Trigger and like, oh, video games can do this as well. And we've seen other games push that forward. BioShock is another great shout as well. But throughout the years, there have been these games that have rekindled that love and that sense of wonder. A more recent example, Tears of the Kingdom, Elden Ring was another one where you say, man, we've been in this industry for decades. We've been playing video games for decades, and there are still surprises. There are people who harken back to the glory days and say, oh, gaming peaked at X year. And for me, I'm the exact opposite. I think we haven't even tapped the possibilities of what gaming can be, and we keep seeing developers pushing those boundaries and pushing the medium forward. And that's why I'm here. That's why I have an Xbox podcast. That's why I want to talk about video games every day, is because of what the possibilities are for the future. So love that, man. Appreciate you. I want to give a quick shout out to all the people joining us live. If you are digging the show, hit the like button, share it out. Let's get into some housekeeping. If you haven't already, join the Xbox Chaturdays Discord. Pretty cool. Cool people. Link in the description. Xbox Chaturdays also has some merch. Buy yourself a sick death metal shirt. Subscribe if you're new. If you haven't, we just crossed 2,000 subs. It's a new little endeavor over here. We're on the road to 5K. Appreciate all of you. And now member shoutouts. A huge shout out to all the people supporting the channel through memberships. In the supporter tier, we have William Riggs, Huffy Bear CH, Sinful Sadie TTV, Goldshell WPR, Christopher Davis, Buddy McClure, Rachel, Derek, Griffin Jones, V Simcoe, Anthony, and last but certainly not least, my mom. In the loyalist here, we have John Grasula, Patrick, Nick W, and Assassin, and an extra special shout out to the producers, Matt Valdez, Yodani Quezada, and Hargeet Chani. All right, so actually, one thing I do need to shout out before we have our inside joke that we've been sitting on for a few days here.
Oh man, here we go.
If you didn't check it out yesterday, I was on Xbox 2. Randall Thor, Jez Corden host, one of the best Xbox podcasts around, one of the longest running Xbox podcasts around, and they did a big crossover episode yesterday with me, Jez, Rand, Lord Cognito, and Colt Eastwood. It was a mega episode, ton of fun. Huge shout out to everyone who tuned in and supported that, because it was just good energy and good atmosphere. It was just 5 people talking about video games, and it was a really good time. So appreciate that. But the timing of you coming on this show is especially fantastic, because I want to tell a story to the chat. So on Twitter a few weeks ago, maybe even a month ago, my phone has this feature where it's like 8 years ago, and it'll just show you a dumb random picture that you took on your phone once upon a time. So I got this picture, and it's just me in a Mountain Dew trucker cap with long hair screaming. And for those of you who didn't know, I used to stream. I used to do a lot of like food challenges. So I was taking a dumb YouTuber reaction face, and it was just me screaming like into my selfie cam on my phone in a Mountain Dew trucker cap. And so I thought it'd be funny to just share that online and be like, here you go. 8 years ago, my phone reminded me of this. So here you go. Have fun with it. So I shared it on Twitter. Neo here quote tweets it and says, my man was literally the embodiment of the Xbox brand in the mid 2000s.
Okay, so here's the thing. I didn't even know that there was lore attached to it. I thought that was like a fun photo you took with your friends or whatever. Like, hey, we just got back from the launch of Gears 3 or Halo 4 or whatever. But you actually had a reaction channel where you went and so you reviewed food and things like that?
So I used to stream, and it was mostly like food. My shtick, my gimmick back in the day was I would play the hardest games imaginable, and then I would have disgusting food attached to it. So if I died X number of times, or if it was a hardcore game where if you die, you start over, I would eat something disgusting. So one time we did a century egg. And if you're not familiar with the century egg, it's this egg that is basically covered in lime and buried in the ground for 6 to 8 months, and it ferments, it rots. And it's a delicacy in some places. Some countries really like it, but it's essentially a rotten egg. A rotten egg that the exterior is all brown, and then the interior turns to this really, really creamy rotten egg flavor. And so that was something I ate. I ate some what was it? Canned squid that was probably the worst thing I've ever eaten in my life. I had one piece. I threw the can in the dumpster of my apartment in Long Beach, California at the time. Dude, it permeated the entire garage. I felt so bad because it smelled like death for 4 to 5 days. Until the dumpster was emptied, you would open your front door and just get slammed in the face by this rotting squid. So it was, I'm sorry if that impacted you, if you happen to live in those apartments, I'm sorry. I didn't know it was going to be like that, but dude. Whew. So yes, I did stupid YouTube stuff once upon a time, or stupid Twitch stuff specifically once upon a time. So I got a reminder of that, and with my stupid Mountain Dew trucker cap, you quote tweeted it. I laughed. I was like, oh man. So I commented and I said, yo, and Mountain Dew has never given me a goddamn dime. SMH. Fast forward to a week later. I get an email from Mountain Dew PR. I have somebody from Mountain Dew PR say, hey, I'm reaching out because I saw your tweet last week. And they linked to the tweet. And the tweet was literally me saying, and Mountain Dew has never given me a goddamn dime. SMH. So they literally linked to that tweet and said, hey, I saw your tweet last week and wanted to reach out about sending you a sampler pack of hard Mountain Dew. And I'm like, well, first off, kudos to you. That is hilarious that you found this and bothered to reach out. And secondly, hell yeah, send that over. So I sent over all of my details. A few weeks later, 2 days ago, I got the sampler pack of hard Mountain Dew Baja Blast.
Ooh, baby,
and
that's
so,
what I'm talking about.
It's just a beautiful interaction. And like I teased this interaction a little while ago when I said, man, you never know who's looking at your tweets. You really never, you never ever do. And I've had so many moments where I've had people DM me or email me from tweets. And it's like, oh, damn, I never thought you would have looked at this. And I never ever expected to get a PR email from Mountain Dew offering to send me a sample of hard Mountain Dew because I was jokingly complaining that Mountain Dew never gave me anything for wearing a Mountain Dew trucker cap 8 years ago.
So, ladies and gentlemen, what you can take away from this, from Miles Dompier's future mastermind classes, all you need to do to have success in this life is get an egg, bury it outside your house, check back on it in 6 to 8 months, eat it live on camera, and then you too, in 8 years' time, could get a Mountain Dew Baja Blast hard influencer pack.
It's called playing the long game, all right?
Exactly. Playing the long game, not too dissimilar from what's going on at Xbox. Shout out Xbox Chaturdays podcast every Saturday, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Bang, bang, let's go.
So yeah, had to share that story because you were a integral part of my peak influencer status of getting the Mountain Dew bag, which was 4 cans of hard Mountain Dew.
Okay, so you saying this live on camera? You gonna cut your boys some residuals? Cause you know, like what's happening here?
What's going?
Chat, hit the verdict. Should I at least get like a kickback of 5%? I think that's 5%. Maybe a can of the hard Mountain Dew.
Next gaming event. Next time we link up, I'm gonna come equipped with 1 can of hard Mountain Dew.
Oh,
say, you know what? Whatever flavor you want. They got pineapple. They got mango. They got classic Baja Blast. They got fruit punch. All right. So you let me know.
I will let you know. But you know what, my brother? I can't drink that alone. We got to cheers.
We got to
do it. We have to. Both of us. We have to. No matter how long it takes, whether it's the next not E3 season or maybe E3 does come back at some point, we go cheers and we gonna post it. That's what
we doing it. Hard Mountain Dew, baby. So shout out to you. Shout out to Hard Mountain Dew. And life's weird. All right. Every day I'm delighted by some weird nonsense that happens. And that was a cool moment in my life that I wasn't expecting to have. So with that being said, before we talk about Ubisoft Forward and the rest of the game showcases, I want to know the games that you're playing right now and loving. Because that's, a lot of people, we look at 2023 and 2023 is busy. It's stacked. There's so much to play. But what are you playing right now that's really grabbed you?
Oh, man. So I'm in a really interesting part. So the past 2 weeks or so, I haven't been doing too much gaming, just based off a lot of things happening out here in life. Of course, as you know, with the not E3 season, doing content creation, streams, that's taken up a little bit of time. But when I'm not doing that, I'm spending a little bit of my time playing a couple of different things. I'm trying not to put too much time in one game right now, considering Final Fantasy 16 is just on the horizon. So, I'm just like kind of waiting a couple more days before I fully divulge and invest in that. But funny enough, one game that I've been putting in a couple of hours here and there over the past couple of days, and this is probably fueled because of the Xbox Showcase, was Fable Anniversary Edition on the Xbox Series X. Yeah, exactly. So the story behind it was like I'd already played Fable before, but I'd never played the Anniversary Edition. So during lockdown season, I think it was around 2021, I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go ahead and replay Fable. Because, by the time I finish all 3 games, Fable 4 might be out at some point. Back in 21. Oh, naive Neo. Naive Neo. But yeah, so I started that playthrough a year and a half ago, never got too far into it, and then watching this past showcase, I was like, man, I am in a Fable mood. And what really prompted this actually was me going through the Mass Effect games for the 88th time again. That's part of the reason why I don't play a lot of the newer stuff that comes out until a few months later, because there's always a Mass Effect 2 playthrough thrown into the mix. Like it happens. But yeah, Fable has been one of the games where it just grabbed me again, and it reminds me of a time where you could be in and out of this world and have everything done to completion in around 20 hours or so. And to me, being an RPG aficionado, I love that. And as much as I love, listen, you guys, I know it sounds like an oxymoron because I have this Persona 5 Shrine here, and this game is well over 100 hours. But sometimes it's really nice to have a game that you can just play through the entire story. You can do all this supplementary content, and then that's it. That's the story.
In a tight 25.
Ooh, absolutely, man. It's great, and it's just one of those games where it's like you realize there aren't really a lot of games in the space quite like the original Fable, and it just makes, like, when you play through so many games that are just cut from the same cloth, it's nice to have a Fable thrown into the mix. So Fable, I've spent a couple of hours playing that. In addition to that, Jedi Survivor, I'm really taking my time on this one. I'm very, very early in the game. I'm only on like the third world that you discover. But I'm really having a blast with that when I'm not fighting the game's performance. And then, this one I kind of put down for a little bit because I just knew I was going to lose myself. Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. I put a huge chunk of time in that when the game came out. And then I had to stop for a while because I'm just like, I'm not going to play anything else if I just keep playing Zelda, because I wasn't doing the story. I was just literally maxing out the entire map. I was like, okay, I'll do a story mission here, but what's over there?
What is that? I see something shiny over there.
Yeah, exactly. So Zelda's one of those games where I know I can always come back to it and play it. So I'm not in a real rush to finish that. But yeah, Fable, Star Wars Jedi Survivor, and I'm just counting down the days until Final Fantasy 16, where I just know based off of that game, that's going to be the next one where it's like, Neo, how did you put 40 hours in the game in one day? Listen, I don't know. It's just the concept of time and time dilation is insane. But yeah, 40 hours one day, Final Fantasy 16. Let's go.
If there's a will, there's a way. All right. If there's one thing gamers can do, they can get it done. All right? I was playing Diablo 4 for work. I was doing guide content for IGN. And then there were people on my friends list who had more playtime than me. I'm like, how? I'm doing this as a full-time job. What on earth? How are you playing this much Diablo? But yeah, when you find that game that connects, and this year especially, we've had so many. We've had Resident Evil 4, which I played 4 or 5 times. We had Street Fighter 6. We had Tears of the Kingdom. We've had Star Wars Survivor. We've had Dead Space. There's just been a nonstop gauntlet. And it's getting to the point where I have to pick and choose what I can realistically play. There's a lot of stuff I want to play right now, but there's 2 games that have been consuming me: Diablo 4 and Street Fighter 6. They both came out on the same day, unfortunately. But Street Fighter 6 has been, it's been a while since I've had any illusions of being a competitive player, man. Scrapping with the pros.
MLG.
But I'm in there. I'm in the tutorials. I'm in the training modes. I'm in there learning the fundamentals. I'm in there with Marisa, my thick queen, learning every nuance, every combo. I'm dash canceling. I'm countering. I'm doing all of these things that I wasn't expecting. I was expecting to like Street Fighter. I've always liked Street Fighter, but I wasn't really expecting to really be in there having sweaty matches. Getting online in the on the virtual arcade cabinets and just throwing down and playing against just total edgelords who are I'm losing 10 times in a row. But then on time 11 I win. Time 12 I win. I'm like, "Oh yeah, that's right. All right, I'm going to take these L's. I'm going to take my beatings in the pursuit of learning, in the pursuit of strength, in the pursuit of growth." And Street Fighter 6, it makes you feel like anything is possible, man. So yeah, that's been the game that's been consuming me. I'm playing Diablo with the squad. That's the main co-op game. But before I jump into Diablo, I'm getting my rounds in. I'm getting my 10 to 12 rounds in of Street Fighter per day, keeping the fingers sharp, keeping those reflexes dialed in. So, yeah, Street Fighter 6.
Beautiful.
Capcom, love you. Awesome. Keep it up. Don't change a thing. Actually, there's one thing.
Well, yeah, I was about to say that. I was about to say that, Maz. There's one thing they could change.
There's one thing you should change. We're gonna talk about. There's one thing you can definitely change. But on the game output side, don't change the thing.
Yes. They doing it. They doing the thing.
All right. So the first show I want to talk about this week was Ubisoft Forward. Last week we talked about Ubisoft's weird status position with the gamers around the world. Ubisoft hasn't really been delivering for a lot of people the last several years. They've had weird delays. They've had weird decisions where they're chasing trends. They're chasing the ongoing free-to-play games that they end up shutting down relatively quickly. They haven't had that sense of identity and personality that made them a juggernaut in the space when they were doing Assassin's Creed, Far Cry, all of those early franchises that really are the pillar of Ubisoft now. So ahead of the Ubisoft Forward, a lot of us were speculating, whether or not Ubisoft could deliver. Were they going to be able to rekindle the energy they once had? So I want to know where you were at with Ubisoft before this showcase. Did you feel the same way? Did you echo a lot of the concerns and criticisms of the community?
Oh, absolutely, Miles. What I'm going to say right now is not going to be any new information to anyone who's involved in gaming discourse, but I've been disappointed with Ubisoft's output over, I'd say, going on the past 10 years. Definitely last generation to now. It seemed like that Ubisoft from the PlayStation 2 going into the 360 era, where they just seemed to be creating so many different games to satisfy so many different people of different genres, of different scales, of scopes, that Ubisoft was sort of eroding, and it started to feel very factory, assembly line, if you will, where it's like, okay, well, we have our Assassin's Creed game, and then we have our Far Cry game, and then we have our Watch Dogs game, and they all felt extremely similar, but they appealed to the people who maybe didn't like Assassin's Creed. If you didn't like Assassin's Creed in like old world times, maybe you might like Watch Dogs, which is a little bit more modern and futuristic. And if you don't like that, maybe you'll like the wilderness of Far Cry or whatever. And I always felt that I was in the minority because, I say these things, and yet the games keep on selling and they're so profitable and they're making all this money. So I feel like, maybe I'm not the exact consumer for modern Ubisoft anymore. But every now and then when they did put out really interesting games, such as Valiant Heart, such as Child of Light, I'm actually a big fan of the Mario Rabbids games on the Switch. I didn't think I would like that game, but the idea of them just doing Mario XCOM was fascinating, and it worked decent enough. But yeah, it just seemed like those games were very few and far between. But I gotta say, after watching the showcase, I walked away with a couple of games coming out from Ubisoft that I am excited for. Not just because, like, okay, here's a showcase, I need to find something to be excited for, but games that I'm like, okay, I can actually see myself playing that. One of which, that new Prince of Persia.
Ooh, from the developers of Rayman Legends, which I want to shout out as an absolute underappreciated 10 out of 10 masterclass in platforming that not enough people played. That team is making a Prince of Persia Metroidvania. Let's go. Let's go.
Absolutely. That game took me by surprise because I, like most people, I thought Prince of Persia was dead, man. And the final nail in the coffin was that Sands of Time remake where they just, I would be nice. They weren't giving it to like the best team at Ubisoft, but they realized that was a problem, and then they refocused, they shuffled up development, and now it's like, okay, we're going to take this seriously. But that would be a couple of years out. But then they just come out with this Metroidvania Prince of Persia, and everything that they got going into it is so cool, man. Just seeing how, like the guy, when he came out, he was just like, yeah, I found this game in 1989 and it was great. And when he said that, I'm like, all right, of course they would say that. Yeah, this game was so great 30 years ago. But then you see it on full display, like, oh, wow, look at all the stuff that they're doing. And then stringing in combos into the mix. Oh, my Lord. It's dude.
I saw some people were down. It's one of those things where you see the articles, oh, Prince of Persia has a 10,000 dislikes or whatever, and I look at that and say, what's going on here? Why are people hating on this? And so I agree with you. I think it looks incredible. I think what they showed looks really impressive, but I'm someone who likes Metroidvanias. And there's people who maybe grew up with only 3D Ubisoft games and only want that, so they see a 2D game and they just write it off completely, which I think is what people are doing. And that's unfortunate because especially in recent years, some of the best games, period, are 2D. Hollow Knight,
Yeah.
Shovel Knight. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't care if you prefer 3D games. I have a hard time listening to anyone who plays those and says they're bad games. I can't trust that person.
Exactly. Just looking at him like, interesting.
But listen, I get if it's not for you, but whoa,
Mhm.
come on now.
Yeah.
Come on now. So,
Absolutely, with Rayman Legends being one of the most celebrated titles of all time. That game is so good. Like that Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze, like this is a genre that is flourishing. And even if it's not your cup of tea, there's a lot of good stuff. And I mean, the Ori duology, like there's so much good stuff that if you just it's weird that I gotta say expand your horizon because these came before those big giant 3D open world games, but it's like open your mind a little bit.
yeah.
These games are good.
Sometimes simple's better, all right?
Oh
Let's
yeah.
take a D away and focus on just the gameplay. You feel me?
Mm-hmm.
All
Yeah.
right. So I'm with you. Ubisoft for me in recent years especially hasn't been the style of game I want. They've perfected the map game in a lot of
Mm-hmm.
ways, and they deserve credit when it comes to pushing open world game design, especially early Far Cry's,
Yeah.
especially some of the Assassin's Creed games. They really did push the boundaries, and there really were iconic reasons to play specific franchises. Assassin's Creed delivered something. Far Cry delivered something unique. Watch Dogs delivered something unique. Each game stood as its own and had its
Mhm,
own identity,
mhm.
but they all have sort of amalgamized into one indistinguishable blob now. They all
Yeah.
want to be the map game, and that's not what they need to be. They all are 100-hour map games, every single Ubisoft franchise, and I just look at that and say, why? Just so you can slap the marketing words that, oh, it's main campaign's 50 hours. Okay, cool,
Mm.
but if 40 of those 50 hours I don't want to do, then that's not value. That's not adding to the experience. That is just artificially inflating. And I know people love it. I know people love recent Assassin's Creeds, love The Division, love what Ubisoft has been doing. And so if you do, I commend you. But I do want to see those franchises have some sort of distinguishing features, which felt really lost. And I'm
Mhm.
with you. Going into this show, I wasn't excited. I'll be honest. I wasn't expecting anything. I wasn't excited about anything they had on the horizon. So I went into this show pretty pessimistic. But that being said, Avatar: Frontiers of Pandora is looking out of control. When it leaked and we heard that it was going to be Far Cry in the Avatar universe, I was like, "Oh my god, seriously? You're you're going to make another franchise just Far Cry?" But then we saw it, and the scope and the scale and the density of the environments. My god, they were showing footage captured on PS5. And the amount of detail and density to every single scene that they showed was really thoroughly genuinely impressive and showcases why Massive is one of the most talented teams under Ubisoft right now, because they are able to do so much, and that game looks so good. And I was not expecting to be, day one ready to buy an Avatar game in the year of our Lord 2023, but here I am. The idea of co-oping that with a buddy, oh dude, let's go. Avatar: Frontiers of Pandora really sold me at that showing. It was a very impressive gameplay deep dive, and I think Ubisoft did a great job showing that. And Star Wars Outlaws as well looked really, really good.
Oh, yeah, you know what the funny thing is? And I might catch a little bit of flack for this, especially given my stance on, live service games as a whole, but I was shocked that Star Wars Outlaws wasn't going to be some type of a live service games as a service title because, the last title that I played from Massive was The Division 2. I didn't play it as much as everybody else, but I synced a decent amount of time into it when I got my Xbox Series X, and for what it was, I enjoyed it, and I thought the idea of Star Wars live service, if there ever was a developer who could do something interesting, do like Star Wars Bounty Hunters with Massive Entertainment, where it's a live service game, you do your missions, but it's in the Star Wars world, and everything that goes into that. I was like, all right, you know what? If Massive is working on that, I'm game. But it's not that. It's going to be an open world, third person shooter Star Wars title. And I was like, okay, I'm fine with this too. I'm fine with that too. Because again, it goes back to what we were talking about. It goes back to just having these games, like, let the developers work on the games that they want to work on. And if that's what Massive wanted to do, hey, we're doing a Star Wars title and it's going to be like this, I'm all for it. As a big Star Wars fan, I welcome so many other teams working on the franchise again. It was something that was sorely lost from, like, especially in the 2010s when EA was really the only publisher putting out Star Wars games outside Lego titles. Now we see that Massive is working on, obviously Respawn, they just put out Jedi Survivor and they're working on some stuff too. Like, we might be in for a Star Wars renaissance at some point. But Outlaws, like, for the way Avatar Frontiers of Pandora was for you, like, that's how it felt for me, just looking at that entire game and just looking at how little they showed off of it. And it's going to be a bigger game. That's what excites me. But what got me more than anything was when they transitioned into the space combat and they started doing the dogfighting. I was like, bro, this game is going to be huge. Like, dude, you're telling me I can do all that stuff on the ground and then also take it into space? Oh, dude, I can't wait. I cannot wait.
One of the most exciting things that you can possibly do with a game reveal is to have the Star Wars Outlaws moment where this game is revealed. Nobody knows it's a thing. Nobody knows it exists. You get the reveal and you're like, hell yeah, that looks dope. And then you get the deep dive. One day later, you get the deep dive. And you're like, oh, wow, this is far along. They have a ton of gameplay to show. Like you said, we got the third-person combat, which we expected. And then we got the dogfighting in space. We got the huge narrative beats. And, you talk about taking some heat. I'm going to take huge heat because I'm not a big Star Wars fan. I'm not.
Okay, that's fine.
So space stuff isn't really usually my thing, unless it's horror. Unless you can spread Alien, I'll get down some Alien. But normally sci-fi in space isn't my jam. But that being said, I'm watching Star Wars Outlaws and I'm saying, all right, I'm in. I'm ready for this. This looks great. Massive here. This is Massive as well, right?
Yes. Again, it goes back to what you were saying before. Like, Massive. So they went from doing The Division, they're doing Avatar, and they're doing Star Wars. Like, that's wow.
They're right now. They're the Respawn of EA. Where they're any big licensed property, Ubisoft's like, please, can you do it? Please.
Yeah.
We need some hits. We need some W's right now.
And I think that is one of the benefits of Ubisoft. I mean, one of the detriments we always said is that, like, every Ubisoft developer works on every Ubisoft game, so that's why they all feel the same. But in this case, having every team work as like a support studio, like, because I remember that's one thing they did say with Outlaws. Yeah, like, it's primarily Ubisoft Massive, but we're getting all the help from these supplementary Ubisoft studios. And I was like, okay, that makes sense how they were able to put out this game. That makes so much sense. This and Avatar, two big open world games they look so different. Like, if you were telling me they were coming from two different developers, I'd believe you, because one is a first person open world experience a la Far Cry, and the other one is more third person. That is still very different. Like, I didn't see anything in the ways of Radio Towers as of yet.
Stay tuned. All right,
we'll see.
Stay tuned. No, there was no. With Star Wars Outlaws, there was no indication that it was derivative of other Ubisoft experiences, which was exciting because, again, Ubisoft for a long period of time was just back to back. Every single new IP that they put out, people loved, and that they had so much momentum and energy. And it's been a while since we've had a brand new IP from that publisher that's really connected with an audience. And so there's potential here. There's really big potential. What would you grade this show overall?
Overall, I mean, just looking at the things that I saw that I really enjoyed, like Prince of Persia, I really enjoyed Star Wars Outlaws. And, admittedly, like I said, most of Ubisoft's output I'm not really a fan of, but I know that it caters to their demographic and people like it. I'd give the showcase I give it a solid B, a solid B, for the stuff that I enjoyed. And if they keep up with this and we start seeing more and more of that stuff come out, like, if they see that, okay, this is what gets people excited, you know what, let's go back and start doing different stuff. Let's do different genres. Not everything has to be an open world. Maybe we can do this. And I sort of see it on stage with the shift in the mindset. A game that I don't care anything about is X Defiant. It's not really my cup of tea.
Oh yeah,
but X Defiant now looked way better than it did when they showed it off, I think, like 2 years ago, 3 years ago, something like that, where it's like, dude, you're not giving us a Splinter Cell game, yet you're working on this Call of Duty wannabe clone. And so what they did back then was first off, they went dark. so quiet about it, and then they worked behind the scenes to fix a lot of the things that people said were wrong with the game. And then they came out with it. And like I said, I'm not interested in it, but the general consensus from a lot of people out there has been, oh, wow, this is so much better. You guys have been listening. So it's like, I like that Ubisoft. And if we can return to that Ubisoft and we get those different things, I might be a full on fan again. But yeah, the showcase was solid. No complaints.
Yeah, I'm with you. B is where I'm at as well. Again, I went into the show very low expectations, very low optimism, and they really delivered. I think they delivered, even if, like you, if everything wasn't for me, I could understand why a fan of that genre or that franchise would be excited. And so I think that's the best case scenario when you have a showcase like that. And more than any other team, I felt like they had a bunch of gameplay. They had a healthy amount of gameplay compared to so many other reveals this year. So that was really exciting as well, because not only did they have the big announcement moments, they had the back-to-back moments, much like the Xbox Extended Showcase can be, where you get the reveal and then you get just, here's 10 minutes of gameplay. I don't usually expect that with the reveal, and it's always exciting when we get that. So they did a really good job overall. There was some awkwardness, as per standard. The Just Dance opening number. Let's go. Hell yeah. Let's get out there. Let's get it. Let's get our groove on, baby. So that was there. But if that's not there, that's a legal obligation. All right. Someone's getting sued if Just Dance isn't there.
If they, I always find it so funny because a lot of these showcases, especially like, you know, for people like me and other folks who are, you know, like in Europe or other territories, when we're watching the showcases, usually like the afternoon, for some people in the evening. For y'all on the West Coast, that's first thing in the morning. So if they say we're having this Ubisoft showcase at like 12:30, that's like 9:30 in the morning. And it's just so funny when it's like Just Dance, like, come on, y'all, get up, start dancing. I'm just like, most of these people just rolled out of bed an hour ago. I don't think they're in the mood for this.
I'm sitting there just watching it dead-faced. Well, they're just getting after it. And
it was so funny how many times, I don't know if you caught this, Miles, how many times they panned to Phil Spencer in the audience.
Dude, it was funny. Like, Phil's just sitting there, and then the camera just zooms in on him, and he's totally unaware, but they just close up on, hey, Phil's here. It's a big deal. Okay. All right. Cool.
Man. So on brand. But yeah, Ubisoft, solid gameplay all around. I mean, we didn't even mention Assassin's Creed Mirage, and that's a nice return to form as well.
Exactly. For fans who are not digging the Assassin's Creed RPG formula, this is a callback to the original. In my opinion, too much of a call. It feels like, hey, remember this? Remember when we did this?
Yeah, remember this?
What if we did it but shinier? Huh?
Yes.
So I'm curious to see how that lands, because there are fans who are annoyed that every single Assassin's Creed is the new RPG formula, which I get. You know, people fell in love with the original, and we've strayed really far away from that. So I'm really curious to see how it performs and how it's received, since there has been this call from so many people to go back to that. And I wonder if it's not going to do nearly as well as like Odyssey or Valhalla or their recent ones, which do well. They sell incredibly well.
They do, yeah. So a lot of people just like having that one game that you play and you sink like 100, 200, 300 hours into before you move on. And listen, more power to you. I mean, I have those games sometimes, but for me, they're just more, they're few and far between. Like, I can't do that every single year for a game and a franchise. You know, it's just it's not my cup of tea.
I can do one, maybe two a year, and that's asking a lot. If you're asking me to put 100 hours in, granted, I will put over 100 hours into Diablo 4 for sure.
Absolutely.
But
speaking of which, I just I shouldn't have done this, but I just bought Diablo 4.
Oh, have you not played it all?
No, I haven't. I literally, when I say just bought it, I bought it now because it was on sale. Shout out to Wario64, and they're like, yeah, get Diablo 4 for $39.99, and I'm like,
$30 off?
I was just like,
okay, I'll scoop that. 40. I can live with that.
I can live with that. I'm fine.
Okay,
so,
okay.
So, I was excited because I enjoyed my time that I played in the beta, and I was like, I'll get to it at some point. And now I'm like, all right, now I can.
You $40. All right, so yeah, if you haven't bought it, Wario64 on Twitter dropping the hot deal. Who's it through?
QVC, I believe.
QVC?
Yeah, QVC. I was like, huh? It was so
I'm
weird.
just imagining some like middle-aged woman being like, and here we have the latest video game from developer Blizzard Entertainment. It's called Diablo. It's about going to hell and fighting demons.
Yes. Yeah, there was like this promo on their website where it's not just Diablo 4, but it was like a bunch of the newer games like Diablo, Zelda, things like that. And their code got you like $30 off the game. And I was like, hey man, listen, who am I to judge when God is showing me something? Like I'm
$30 is $30, dude. All right.
Exactly. For a game that just came out like what, like last week, 2 weeks ago? Come on now.
Come on now. That's a deal. That's a steal of a deal.
Absolutely.
Got to give a huge shout out to everyone who is tuning in live. If you are digging the show, hit that like button, share it out. We have a lot more to talk about. I'm going to get to a quick super chat here from Jacob Novick, who says, hi there. Thought on Sony is dominating and a monopoly in markets around the world, owns almost the whole anime market in Japan. And meanwhile, ABK makes Xbox less than 20%. Microsoft can do stuff because Sony is almost, if not a monopoly. No hate, want your takes? Okay. I'm sorry, I'm trying to decipher the question here.
Yeah, no worries. So I assume what the person is trying to ask is, Sony is already a monopoly in the vast majority of territories around the world when you look at the install size of the consoles, and not just that, if you're looking outside of gaming, their acquisition of a lot of anime-related streaming services from Funimation, Crunchyroll, things like that. Why don't they get the same scrutiny when Xbox doesn't even come close to that revenue? So I would say, like, I mean, because those are two different like arguments to be had when it comes down to anime and when it comes down to video games. Now, mind you, none of us are legal experts in the matter when it comes to this situation. So all we are giving you is just our opinion based off of what we are seeing. Speaking specifically when it comes to anime, I would say the reason why there hasn't been much in the ways of, how should I say this, like eyes looking at those acquisitions, is because anime, even though it is bigger now than it's ever been, and we see like all these crazy deals, it's just not to the point where all of these regulators have to be looking at it. Like, it makes money, but not as much as what a lot of people are thinking. So you can view Crunchyroll, you can see Crunchyroll and see what they're valued at, but it's not making the same amount of revenue that something like the video games industry would on a random Tuesday. So I would assume that that's the reason why that they aren't going after that. Now, if we had more major players in the mix and anime was going crazy, absolutely. When it comes to gaming, man, I mean, just the obvious elephant in the room is Microsoft and who, like Xbox. Like, people say, oh, you got to look at Xbox and they're not making money. But who owns Xbox? It's Microsoft. And you look at that, and they're going to look at that juggernaut Microsoft. They're not going to care that Xbox is trying to buy this. They're looking at Microsoft. And even if Xbox only makes X amount of money compared to PlayStation, it's still Microsoft that these regulators are looking at. And yes, I understand it is not fair considering PlayStation does have basically a monopoly all across the world. That's not how the regulators view it, for better or for worse. Like, I'm not saying it's good or I'm not saying it's bad. That's just how a lot of people are interpreting it. Microsoft is this $1 trillion corporation that makes money hand over fist like it's nothing, versus PlayStation. But what's your take on that, Miles?
Yeah, that's very well said. That's sort of the reality when we're talking about this. When we are looking at the media, the film side specifically, the reason they're not getting looked at as monopoly is because Disney exists. All right. If anyone should be getting looked at as a monopoly, it's Disney, because my God, the reality is that side of this media sphere is already so on that path. There's like 4 major players that own everything. So there's 4. So you can say it's not technically a monopoly, but every single one of those players is teetering on the edge. They are as close as they legally can be to becoming a monopoly. And that's sort of that fine line when you look at the consolidation. And so I think, again, whether it's fair or not, maybe our regulators are looking at what they allowed to happen in that space and saying, ooh, do we really want that for video games? Do we really want 4 players to control every single studio? Every single property is going to be owned by 4 major players. And Microsoft, unfortunately, has some precedent from the past where they got some heat with Windows. And they were, taken to court for monopoly concerns, and they lost, essentially. They had to legally change some of their practices because of monopoly concerns. So again, Xbox is not anywhere near as big as PlayStation in terms of brand notoriety, in terms of its market share and mind share. But again, Microsoft is the parent company, and they do have a lot of resources. So there is a concern, whether fair or not, that Microsoft could theoretically be the big baddie that they once were. Again, there's no indication that that's their plan, and there's no technically legal. There's no legal precedent that says what Microsoft is doing with ABK is a monopoly or is illegal, but there's now these conversations about what that could lead to. And then if you're a lawyer, if you're looking at the law exactly, you can say, well, it's not about what they could do, it's about this specific instance. And sure, I think that's fair as well. So I don't know. It's some of it maybe is just overcompensation for what has happened in the past. And some of that is the fact that Microsoft does have the resources to be a baddie in the industry, and maybe they're just trying to curb that. But again, I think it would be fine if this deal went through. I don't think it would fundamentally change the industry forever. But again, it's about the precedent and what it means for the future, and we don't know. We don't know what it means.
Well said. Well said.
All right. Ubisoft, ahead of their show, we talked about everyone being unsure about their output. You know, they haven't been delivering for me. They haven't been delivering the way that they used to. One publisher that's not getting that same sort of skepticism right now is Capcom. And that is because every single franchise that Capcom has touched in recent years has been a hit. Monster Hunter World, Resident Evil 7, 8, Village, just back to back. Devil May Cry 5 even. So they went back and they touched Ghosts and Goblins, for God's sake, and they made that a banger. Like, everything that they've touched has been so amazing. If you're watching the live version, they announced a new IP, this Path of the Goddess, Kumitsugami, which looks amazing. Everything that they're doing right now is amazing. And so we went into the Capcom Showcase this year, where they promised 36 minutes of updates, admittedly, for things like Exoprimal, Dragon's Dogma 2, and Ghost Detective. But there was, I think, a part of us, all of us, who were like, well, Capcom's been on fire. There's possibilities. There's potential. Who knows? Who knows what's going to be there? This could be a banging show. But that excitement quickly faded. Really quickly faded. Neo, first off, did you watch the entirety of the Capcom Showcase?
I did. Against my better judgment, because I had a bit of a moment 2 years ago, during the last Naughty 3 season, where I was streaming almost all the showcases, and I was like, yeah, we're gonna stream the Capcom Showcase, because Capcom, they're doing very well. They're doing very well. Again, riding the high of everything, of all the game releases. So yeah, of course, they go to show us some stuff, and I almost rage quit off that stream. It's one of my finer moments where I was just like, are you serious? No, I'm done. I just left the room. I went downstairs. I poured myself a drink. I'm like, I'm done with this, bro. I am done. And again, what it comes down to, obviously, we're all having fun with these showcases. No one is really mad at this stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
At the same time, I'm disappointed in Capcom, because they've done so much with their game output, to the point where, honestly, they don't even need to have a showcase. Like, I learned really nothing from this showcase that I didn't already know. The only saving grace, and by that I mean the only saving grace that I got from the showcase, was that, and like I said, Capcom, they do a lot of dumb things with their showcases, but every now and then they throw an announcement in there that just warms my black heart, bro. We got a brand new Ace Attorney collection.
Yeah, dude.
Brand new Ace Attorney collection. Now, for those who do not know, next to Persona, Mass Effect, things like that, the Ace Attorney franchise is one of my all-time favorites. I love it. It's so wacky. It's so goofy, but at the same time, there's so much heart to it. Some of the cases can be really dark. It's great. But a lot of those games have been locked on handheld devices for the longest time. You know, if you have a DS or a 3DS, you were in heaven, but what happens after the fact? And a lot of those games, unfortunately, like the more recent ones, they didn't get physical versions, which kind of sucked. But they threw us a bone a couple years back, and we got this right here. Now, this is all in Japanese because this is an import copy, but this is the Ace Attorney trilogy on Nintendo Switch. I love it so much, I had to import it completely in English, so you guys don't have to worry about that. But this has been the only game that we've been playing since 2019. 2 years later, we got the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles come out, and it's just like, oh, okay, like they remember this franchise exists, awesome. And then radio silent until 2 years later. We got another collection. 4, 5, and 6 are coming. We're still missing Miles Edgeworth, but they're throwing us a bone. We're getting more Ace Attorney, and I am happy about that. I'm very happy. That being said, is that worth a 36-minute showcase, Miles? I do not think so, my brother. No, it is not. It is
Dude.
not.
Dude.
Dude.
Dragon's Dogma 2, one of my most anticipated games. Y'all, I lost my damn mind when they revealed that. Dragon's Dogma, baby. One of the most underappreciated RPGs on the Xbox 360. I played it post Elden Ring and said to myself, damn, this stuff was doing what Elden Ring was doing a decade earlier. Dragon's Dogma is such an amazing game. And for fans who connected with it, we've been just begging Capcom, please, what are you doing? Why is this dormant? Why haven't you touched this franchise? And then there was the tease of we're doing a 10th anniversary stream. And people were like, oh, they're doing it, man. Dragon's Dogma 2. And then we get the documentary. And then we get all these other announcements. We're like, they're not doing it. And then dude opens his chest. Dragon's Dogma 2 t-shirt. Hoo, let's go. That being said, when he did that, I thought that shit was pre-production. I thought they had the logo done and they were talking about it behind the scenes. Fast forward to a year later, gameplay trailer. A gameplay trailer at the PlayStation Showcase for Dragon's Dogma 2. Looks so good. The magic is looking as sexy as it ever has. The environments and graphics are just what we want them to be in the modern age. It looks so good.
Dragon's Dogma on the RE engine, bro.
Dude, the dream. The absolute dream. So when they said, oh, we're going to give you an update to Dragon's Dogma 2 at the showcase, I was like, I want any second, any shred of new Dragon's Dogma 2 details. I got none. That was the worst breakdown of all time. They literally just replayed the trailer and then, bless them. I appreciate them getting personalities on there, but they literally gave us the most boring non-answers to what was happening. One of the lines that he said is, in this trailer, you see a mix of characters and villains from the game. I was like...
Bro,
you do. You do. You definitely see characters from the game in the trailer. Oh my god. But I was waiting for some other new details or some other footage. There wasn't even a second of new footage. There wasn't even 1 second of new footage, man.
Morsel, a crumb. None.
I was hurting because again, up until that point, the showcase wasn't killing it, and I was like, okay, maybe Dragon's Dogma is going to be the coup de grace, the finale that really gets it going. It wasn't there. It wasn't there. We did get a lot more on Exoprimal, which let me say, I'm an Earth Defense Force guy. I love Earth Defense Force. I love the pitch of kill big bugs. And as the gameplay loop, you're a soldier. It's kind of poor man Starship Troopers. You're killing big bugs. They're taking that idea, putting you in a mech and having you fight dinosaurs. It's not going to set the world on fire, I don't think. But that being said, what I've played of the betas has been really great. And what we've seen of the game looks really fun. So, that was the most interesting part of the show, was new details on Exoprimal. Outside of Pragmata, we did kick the show off with some gameplay for Pragmata. A lot of us have been wondering, where is this game? It was announced with the PS5, right? It's been several years, and they've already delayed it once. And then they had the cute little note where the lead, I think, is she a robot? Is she some sort of AI?
Something along those lines. Pragmata is one of those games where I'm just like, okay, until there's a release date, I don't believe this exists, so I'm not going to dignify anything.
I don't know what it is. Nobody knows what it is, what you're going to be doing outside of carrying around a blonde girl who has magic powers, telekinetic powers. We got in the new trailer, so we got the most details about gameplay so far, but it was just a cute little handwritten note that's crossing out, the 2022, 2023, and then just question mark. We don't know.
I love how they did the what Cyberpunk popularized, the game development delay Twitter post. They put that in the stream. I was cracking
so
up when I saw that, bro. It's like fade in. I'm like, wow.
Because you see the girl in this pure white room. There's a sense of mystery. You're like, oh, what's she writing? What's going on? And then you see the note, and it's just her crossing off release dates. It's like, I got to give you respect, all right? I got to give you respect for coming out, acknowledging that you don't know when it's coming. You're working on it, but we don't know when it's coming out. But here's what we can show you. Even though it was a tiny little piece, I respect that. I got to respect that. And when the show started with that, I was like, okay, there will be some updates to things that we haven't heard about in a while, or maybe some new stuff. But outside of Mega Man, oh God, what was it called? It was like Mega Man Local. It was just it was like Mega Man Offline. It was just some mobile gacha game that had been converted to Steam, and they took away the gacha elements.
That's what Mega Man fans want. Hell yeah. After we got what it is? Capcom's like, well, we just threw you the Battle Network collection. Like, what else do you want?
All right, there's 8 games in there, okay? That should tide you over for 10 years.
Capcom's like, y'all play all 8 games yet? No, and stop asking about it.
We took all that time to give you 8 games. All right, let us cook.
Yeah, but it sold really well though, so people want that.
Exactly. So as a Mega Man fan, that hurt. That hurt. I was down low at the start of the show. That was a rough one to take, and it didn't go anywhere from there. So
nope. Oh, it went somewhere. If you didn't know by now, you do know that Resident Evil 4 is coming to PlayStation VR 2. Again, they're letting us know.
That was my biggest pet peeve, is this showcase was literally them, like Path of the Goddess was there. And I was like, hell yeah, Path of the Goddess looked dope. We just had Star Wars Outlaws do the big reveal and then the gameplay deep dive. And we had a gameplay trailer for Path of the Goddess. And I was like, let's go. They just replayed the trailer and that was it.
Dude, this entire Capcom showcase could have been an email. And that's the crazy thing, because every single time after all these showcases, I get PR emails from Capcom, and I'm just like, you could have done this as an email, bro. Like, there's nothing in here that I'm looking at. I'm like, yo, yeah, let's hype some people up. But I think what it comes down to at Capcom, I feel like this is, unfortunately, for all the great Capcom games that we get, we'd have to have a bad track record of something, and it's the showcases. So if it means we keep getting amazing games and terrible showcases, I'm okay with it, because after a couple of days, we're going to forget about this showcase, and then we go move on to the next Capcom banger. At least I hope Exoprimal was a banger, because if not, I'm going to be a very sad boy, Miles. I'm going to be a very sad boy, because Exoprimal, Capcom acknowledges that dinosaurs exist, but apparently not for Dino Crisis.
They put the redhead female character in the dinosaur game. Just to tease you, and that that reveal trailer, they were just poking Dino Crisis fans.
They were
poking like, oh, this kid, are they doing it? No, they're not doing it. So I'm still excited for it. And you're right. I'm not really mad at the Capcom showcase. Yeah. I understand Capcom needs to market their games. They need to get the word out there. I understand that most of these game showcases are giant commercials to try to sell us things. But what, just at least trick me. At least make me feel like I'm not watching a commercial. But when you have literally an ad for the Capcom sale during your broadcast, it becomes a little transparent what the purpose of this broadcast was. Hey, buy this. Capcom games are on sale right now. I'm like, oh, okay. This is a commercial. This is a 36-minute commercial.
Yes, sir. Yeah, 36-minute commercial in the worst ways. Like, we acknowledge that all these directs and showcases are commercials for things that they want to sell us, but man, Capcom needs to get a little more graceful with it.
Yeah, give me the suspension of disbelief, all right? Let me just at least maybe trick myself into thinking it's not that and just get lost in the moment. But Capcom didn't do it. They didn't do it this year.
I will say this, though. I did fold all my laundry when I was watching that showcase, so at least somebody was accomplished.
Something good came of the Capcom showcase,
It did.
And that's what matters, all right? We got to find the good in any situation. And there it is. You got to
find the good in every situation. That's a great way of looking at it.
All right, so the biggest show of the past week, and arguably for some the biggest show of the season, was the Xbox Game Showcase 2023. E3, we don't know what the fate is. We don't know what the future is. Is it coming back? No, probably not. It's probably dead. But that being said, people still seem to want to come together in June at the same time and share video games. And I think that's great. We had Summer Game Fest. We had the PlayStation Showcase at the end of May. We had Ubisoft Forward. We had Capcom. We had a lot of people come together and celebrate video games. And it is really cool to have that moment, to have that dedicated week or two where it's video games are the pop culture moment. They are what everyone is talking about. And it's important for the industry to have something like that. So Xbox, they are still, even though E3's gone, they still want to have the annual showcase in June. That's the goal. We're going to do it. We're going to keep doing it. And going into this show in particular, it's been a weird year and a half for Xbox. The start of this generation, I think we can all agree, was very positive. The momentum coming off the Xbox One X into the launch of the Xbox Series X and S, that energy, you could feel it. Their marketing was tight. Their messaging was specific. They were ready to come out of the gate swinging with this generation. And as we know, COVID happened, delays happened, reality happened. But that being said, there was still, through 2021, I still think they were delivering. We had Halo Infinite, we had Forza Horizon 5, we had a really good 2021.
Yep, 6 and 6.
And then into 2022, things took a dark turn. Things took a weird turn. And I don't want to say that 2022 was just awful for the brand as a whole, but that's when the ABK conversation started. That's when the ABK deal became the talking point of Xbox. And then you compound that with the fact that Xbox didn't have any big first-party releases in 2022, and you start 2022 with Crossfire X as your first exclusive. And so you're like, what happened? You just came off Forza Horizon 5 and Halo Infinite, which were critically acclaimed, doing very well, and then you go into Crossfire X, and then nothing for the rest of the year? It was strange. And then, again, start of the following year, this year, 2023, we're coming off the back of no big holiday game. We're coming off the back of a pretty barren year for first party. We have the Developer Direct. The Developer Direct re-energizes a lot of people. Demonstrates that Microsoft is trying new formats with how it shows games to people. We got some release dates for big games like Redfall. But hell yeah, things are looking good. And then again, that momentum's gone because we had ABK dominating. We had Redfall. We had all of this drama just become the conversation surrounding Xbox. So a month ago, there were Xbox fans who I would say were at all-time lows. All time. I had people in my Discord just saying, I'm done with Xbox. I'm done with, this is an Xbox centric Discord. And I had people in my Discord saying, I'm done. I'm tired of waiting around for them to figure it out. Like, I can play great games other places, so I don't know why I'm here. And that was the energy. I was like, wow, what happened in the span of a year and a half to Xbox's momentum and energy? So going into this showcase, much like every other year, we were saying, Xbox needs to deliver. This needs to be a hit or they are dead. Shut it down. Pull the plug. Fire Phil Spencer out of a cannon. Okay? Because they ain't doing it. He ain't doing it. All right? And that was the energy. I was like, wow, people are down bad right now on Xbox. And I'm someone who's, been optimistic about the future Xbox Game Studios, but still critical of their shortcomings because they've had a lot of opportunities where they've overpromised and underdelivered. Time and time and time again. That's just a fact. That is the reality of Xbox. So going into the show, I was excited because it seemed like there was potential, but also, considering recent history, unsure of what they would do. But then Neo.
What?
Everyone from Xbox, every key person from Xbox has swagger, confidence that I've never seen ever. They're coming out on Twitter. They're poking people. They're telling people to have a spare pair of pants ready for the show. They're at LA telling people, influencers, journalists on the street to be ready, that they're not ready for the show. And I'm like, they're always tempering expectations, saying, whoa, guys, hold on. That's way too cool for what our show's going to be. Stop it. Like, tone it down. This year, no. They're not tempering anything. They're telling people to get excited. You can feel this level of confidence that we've never seen. So once I started seeing that and feeling that, once we got the outright Fable tease, which, Jesse of Xbox Era, Nick of Xbox Era, love them. They're friends. I call them friends, but I got to call them out because they were the people saying outright that my Xbox isn't teasing anything. Xbox would never tease a game. And everyone's like, bro, this is Fable. Stop it. This is Fable. What are you talking about? This is a tease for Fable. And they're trying to poop on the party, telling people not, temper expectations, don't get excited. And I was like, nah, this is a tease for Fable. And if Fable isn't here, my God, they have dug their own grave. I don't know. Like, that was the most blatant tease I've ever seen in my entire life. So with all of that, before we share our overall thoughts on the show, where were you with Xbox going into this show? Did you think Xbox was going to be able to deliver, especially with how much they were hyping their own show?
Oh man, so yeah, very very similar to you, bro. As I'm sure most people, I've told the story numerous times about my history with Xbox as a fan, going away from the brand after Halo 4 came out, and then coming back to it at the tail end of the generation, and now being fully on board with it with this one. I was excited for Xbox. Like when I got that One X and I saw everything that Xbox was doing, I was genuinely shocked. I was like, wow, this is not the Xbox that I left so many years ago. And they were doing a lot of really cool things. I love the idea of Game Pass. And then when they were making all these acquisitions, and I'm seeing like, wow, so you told me like they're gonna fund all these games and they're gonna put them out on Game Pass and they're doing all these cool things for backwards compatibility, FPS boost. Like I was hyped to say the least. And
Yeah.
2021 was a great year in my opinion for the Xbox brand. The 6 and 6 program where they had like 6 Game Pass launches like over the course of like what 6 months or less. They were doing a lot of good stuff. But then after Halo Infinite dropped, it was gone. Like that energy, that enthusiasm, even for the small stuff like, oh, here's the Game Pass lineup for this month. Like the releases, even though they were putting stuff on Game Pass, they weren't of the same quality as we were getting in 2021. The random announcements here and there, you know, they were slowing down support for things like FPS Boost and the backwards compatibility program, obviously for logistic reasons, so I can't fault them for that. But again, it took away from the excitement. Like it seemed like every other day in 2021, there was something new for Xbox to get hyped for.
Yeah.
And then it was gone in 2022. And people say that that partially is because of the ABK deal and they were trying to look weak. Regardless of all that stuff, power play, chess moves on their front, to me as a gamer, if you are not servicing me and you're not giving me stuff to get excited about, I can't get excited. And I think that that sentiment was echoed for a lot of people, whether it was in the Xbox fandom or just in general. When you look at people, they weren't looking at Xbox the same way. It's like, well, why do I need an Xbox? They haven't shown me anything to get excited about. 2022 Showcase didn't show any new games that they had announced 2 years prior. You know, Halo Infinite, the updates were slowing. Like people were wondering, like, what happened? What happened? And then going into this year, I'm like, okay, we'll see what happens. Like I always have a we'll see approach when it comes to Xbox. We'll see. I'll believe it when I see it. Hi-Fi Rush drops. That's a solid little surprise.
Yeah.
And then from there, they start doing these updates. Like, oh, okay, you know, like, yeah, the showcase is going to be cool and everything. But ironically, and this is weird, I know, what got me really excited about this showcase was the fact that the PlayStation showcase was not that great, in my opinion, because literally it's like, okay, there is no way in the world that Xbox could have a showcase that is as bad as this. Like, there's no way. These games have been cooking for 3+ years. You got to show up with something. So I'm like, all right, we'll see what happens. And I went to the showcase and, you know, I've got my critiques, I got my criticisms, but overall, I'm happy and excited to be an Xbox fan again. They've shown me enough to get excited about that, okay, they have a good track record of things. They showed me enough gameplay for some games, some more than others. I got to see some things I wanted to see, and ending it off with Starfield was, I think, just the last, I don't want to say it was like the last little boost, like jolt of life that they could have given it, but it was just like, we're going to crank it up to level 15. Boom, there's Starfield for you. Excited. And yeah, I'm excited.
You bring up the PlayStation Showcase, and that was an interesting moment because the energy surrounding that was huge. So many people were throwing out outrageous predictions, outrageous leaks, rumors. We heard this was going to be some sort of ungodly juggernaut showcase, the likes which had never been seen. And I had heard people at Xbox were a little concerned that that might be the reality, that PlayStation might come out of the gate and just absolutely just crush with that show. And again, if you're a first-party fan, I thought the show was lacking. Overall, I thought the show had cool moments and cool reveals. I wasn't that down on it. But the second that show ended, Xbox's energy shifted. And I was like, oh, you could, their social media team, their execs, everyone's energy shifted. And you could tell like, oh, Xbox knew that their show was going to be better. They just knew. And when I started to feel that and see that, because you don't see that from Xbox often. I saw people tweeting things that they would never tweet otherwise. And I was like, oh, Xbox is cooking up something. They got something special. If the second this show is over, they're coming out with, hey, get here, tune in. Here's the date. Here's the time. Once again, tune in. All right. If you
What a
thought
great lineup of games.
if you thought that was disappointing, tune in. If you thought that was good, tune in because we got something. We got something real special. And I was like, okay, Xbox, whether or not it's going to be the greatest show of all time, in my eyes, there was no world where this show wasn't at least good. There was no world where this wasn't at least a good show. But still, I was unsure of how good it would be, what would be there, how deep we would go on the updates. But Xbox did a great job showing updates to games like Fable, which we have desperately been wanting. They started the show with Fable. We got new reveals from Compulsion Games, In Exile. We got a release date for Forza Motorsport. We got the Starfield 45-minute direct.
Oof.
We talked
and
about
it went by like it was 5 minutes, bro.
Dude, we talk about wanting those big gameplay moments. That was the biggest gameplay moment I've ever seen in my life. My God, that was so much Starfield. So much Starfield. So the show overall was received incredibly well, and you could tell immediately online. It wasn't the typical, oh man, wait till next year, Xbox, they didn't do it again. There was a different energy. There was just optimism and positivity and excitement about game reveals, which is what Xbox needs more than anything else, because they have a great platform, they have great hardware, they have a lot of things going for them from the boring technical side. But video games are about how they make you feel, and that's why people connect with video games. And you have to have impactful, emotional video games to really resonate with fans and keep fans engaged. And I think they did that very well at this show. What we saw, especially on the new reveal front, was incredibly exciting. And again, it was as an Xbox fan, it just felt really good to be excited about video games. Have video games be the talking point. Not ABK, not frame rate, just video games, dude. It felt so good.
Yeah, dude. Xbox needed this. They needed this. Whether you want to classify it as a big W or small W, I view it as what was necessary, especially coming off of. And I mean, we cannot. I'm surprised we made it a solid hour and a half into this podcast without bringing up the giant red disfigured elephant in the room that is Redfall. After that, yeah, a lot of people are like, "What is going on?" Because that was their first big game from Bethesda post this acquisition, like something that had been cooking, something that wasn't already almost done, like Deathloop or Ghostwire Tokyo. Like this was like their first big game that was only on the Xbox ecosystem, and then it comes out like that. And then Phil Spencer is going around doing these pity party interviews, and it was not a good look. They were not looking in a great place, a great position at all. And then this showcase happens, and again, it goes back to what we were all talking about from that Phil Spencer interview. Let the games do the talking, and you will have nothing to worry about. Everything else will work itself out, because all it takes is one great game or a string of great games to get people invested and on board. And if you show people that game and they get excited for it and it delivers, that is what matters. And that is what Xbox has been lacking for a while, a consistent string of quality games. And Starfield is looking like that one big game that they haven't had in a long time. I mean, like, no disrespect at all to Playground Games and what they've done with Forza Horizon, but Forza Horizon has always been a consistent series. Like, if somebody comes out there and says like, "Oh, the next Mario game sells well," yeah, obviously, yeah, of course.
What?
It's like, what? Like, the next God of War has broken sales record, obviously. Same thing for Forza Horizon. So when Forza Horizon comes out and we see its accolades, it's like, of course, because Playground Games is one of their best studios. But you want something new. You want something different. And Starfield, even though it is coming from a studio they acquired, they gave them a lot of extra time to polish it. You know, this game was originally going to launch. What did they say? It was supposed to launch 2021. Yeah. 11, what was it? 11, 11, 11? Like, well, they were trying to do 11, 11, 21 because they wanted to do it like.
Well, they were going to do that 22, but originally
like Skyrim,
the game was
right?
scheduled to launch in 2021. The official release date they gave was 11, 11, 22. So it was supposed to come out a year before that, even originally.
Oh, okay, got you. Yeah, so they had planned to launch this a while ago, but I guess with the extra time and the resources, they wanted to make sure they got this game right, and they needed to. And just look at what we've seen from last year to this year. Like, full transparency, I saw Starfield last year, and I was like, I'm really happy for you Bethesda fans. Like, that's all I wanted to say, because I like Bethesda games, but I'm not going crazy over it. But what I saw this year, I went from like, all right, that's good. That's pretty good. And whoa, that's great. And then I was like, boom, I'm sold. I'm sold. Day one, baby. I don't even care. And that what they did with Starfield was perfect because you got that little snippet in the showcase, then check back for the full-on deep dive, and the deep dive showed us everything. And it's just I'm hyped. Like I'm hyped. Just look. Yeah, Twitter is not the best gauge for this, but look at the timeline. Look at how many people are hyped for Starfield. Look at how many people pulling up with that controller. That controller. That glorious.
Oh, you got it? Oh, damn.
Courtesy of my amazing girlfriend. She saw my stream and I was like, yo, that controller looks sick. And then boom, 2 days later, she pulls up with that on date night. Shout out to my girlfriend.
Yeah, dude.
Yep. But yeah, again, that level of excitement and enthusiasm is great. And can you imagine they apply that level to all the other games they got cooking? Like, dude, a Fable developer deep dive direct. Like, that's the stuff that gets people excited about Xbox again. Because, like, Xbox, you have the properties, you have the franchises. Show them. And they haven't been able to show them for a long time because of game development, but show them. And yeah, I mean, we might as well just use that to segue a little bit into Fable. Like, I'm excited for Fable. You know this. But I'm a little spoiled, man. I feel like after 3 years, we should have gotten at least a little bit more of concrete gameplay, not just like the quick cuts and the running and the throwing, you know? Like I wanted to see more, you know, but I don't doubt Playground. They've been cooking for years. So yeah.
Yeah, that's sort of where I'm at. Everyone knows, and you can boo me. I've been booed plenty of times. I wasn't that hyped about Starfield. I love Bethesda, but I'm a dark fantasy dork. All right, give me some dragons, give me some horses, give me some magic. You take that away, oh, you put me in a spaceship. Oh God, no! Please, God, no! Please, I'm in a spaceship for a lot of this game. Good Lord, this So I was, infamously, I've been, I haven't been. I have an idea for a tweet. I haven't been negative about Starfield because it's Bethesda. I trust that they're going to deliver Skyrim in space, which is what people want. That pitch to me, nah, give me Skyrim in Skyrim. That's what I want. All right. Ooh. So, I've been optimistic about what Bethesda could deliver, but the biggest compliment I can give the Starfield Direct is it sold me. I went from being lukewarm on Starfield to being just ready to play day one. Yes. The scope, the scale, what they're able to do. As soon as I saw all the sandwiches on the table, I was like, bro.
Yeah, that's it. What we all about.
That's it. What we all about. Exactly. You let me do this. That's what Bethesda games do well. The small, stupid details that don't matter. You could decorate your house with bowls and spoons and whatever artifacts you find in the world. It doesn't add to the gameplay at all in any way, but it adds to the experience. It adds to your engagement, and it empowers you to do whatever you want. So that stupid throwaway joke about the sandwiches, that was the one thing that was the most exciting because it showed me that they wanted to empower players to do whatever they want.
Wait. Miles. Are you telling me that they are powering your dreams?
They're powering my dreams. Bethesda really came out and put all their sandwiches on the table and said, this is Starfield, all right? This is what it is. Here's 45 minutes. You know the magic and beauty we've had with Tears of the Kingdom, where everyone's online making just dick and balls? And you're just watching amazing physics videos of people just crafting dicks and balls and doing stupid stuff. And that's it. There's no drama. There's no negativity with that game. It's people just having fun. Starfield's going to be that. The amount of dick rockets we're going to see in Starfield is going to blow your mind. It's going to, your entire Twitter feed is going to be just dick rockets. All right. I want Xbox to have that moment. I don't want Xbox to have the typical caveats where it's, oh, this is good, but, oh, I love this game, but I'm excited, but I want a Tears of the Kingdom moment where people are just like, yo, this game is consuming my life. I just want to do nothing but play this game. And from what we saw of Starfield, it should be that. And again, even as someone who's not a big fan of hard sci-fi, like I was excited. I walked away from that Starfield Direct saying, yo, let's go. I'm ready day one. Get me out in that space. Let me go take some pictures. Let me collect sandwiches and let me just fulfill my space fantasy, which is probably going to be vastly different than a lot of other players' space fantasies. So Bethesda, hell yeah, 45 minutes of Starfield, you sold me. You did it. And that is the greatest compliment I can give to the Starfield Direct.
Yeah, absolutely, bro. They nailed exactly what they needed to with that Direct. And again, it's one of those things where if I keep thinking about a game, that's how it was when they unveiled the Halo Infinite multiplayer. I remember I went back and I was like, I already watched this deep dive. I want to watch it again. You know, like that's how I feel with Starfield. And it's just, again, one of those games where you know you're going to be playing it for a very long time. And then we haven't even gotten into the topic of like, oh, what happens when they do expansions? Because, you know, when they drop the Fallout expansions and the Skyrim expansions, that stuff. And it's just like, wow, this is going to be the game. And that, like, fingers crossed, if this game lands, that is going to give the Xbox brand the much needed rejuvenation that it's been sorely lacking for the past 2 years. So yeah, I can't, like, everything they showed off of Starfield, it just, like, the only thing I wish we would have gotten, and I know they already said this years ago, I do wish that you were able to actually get into your ship, take it off ground, fly directly into the air, and then travel that way. I know they said you can't do that. That's the one thing.
That was the moment when they first revealed gameplay. I was waiting. I was like, saw them in space and was like, yeah, drive to the planet. And then they don't. I'm like, no. So close. So
close. But they do throw us a bone in some respects. I mean, the dog fighting there looks awesome. And then I'm just like, wait, are you telling me I can have Black Air Force energy as a space pirate? Oh, yeah, give me that. I'll take it.
When you're in the cockpit allocating energy to different thrusters and weapons and shields, and like, yo, this is a space dorks fantasy right here. They're doing it. They're really going all in.
Like, for real, like, just growing up watching those sci-fi shows, they're like, put all power to the main thrusters, and I'm just like,
allocate energy to the thrusters.
Yeah, like, oh, bro, that was great. So yeah, I mean, I don't think, like, someone in the comment section brought it up. It's crazy how that Starfield Direct brought some people back, and I'm like, yeah, because that's all you need. All you need is that one game. Like Nintendo, people, myself included, were saying Nintendo, they got to go third party because they don't got console development down pat. But then they come out with Breath of the Wild, and it's like, okay, I'll go buy a Switch.
I'm buying a Switch. Yeah, no question. And that's, as we've seen with Xbox and Starfield, where the Series X sales, I think, went up 1,500% on Amazon the day after the Starfield Direct. That shows there's some weight with that exclusivity. That shows there's some energy with an Xbox game. And if Xbox can finish this year with Starfield and Forza Motorsport, just back-to-back slapping, they can just coast on that through the holidays and just really end the year on a strong note. And I'm sure they'll have Game Pass drops for the rest of the year to keep energy going. But still, 2 first-party must-play games at the end of the year, right before the holidays. I mean, there's no way that Starfield isn't in the Game of the Year conversations.
No, absolutely, bro. Especially if it is as in-depth as some of the stuff that they were talking about, choosing your own style of playing and rewarding the exploration, because it ticked all the boxes. Like with Tears of the Kingdom does that. What Tears of the Kingdom does so special, in my opinion, is, okay, you can make a video game that'll appeal to 99% of gamers and they'll know exactly what they're going to get out of it. It's just standard to the point. But what about that 1% of gamers who dare to be different, to be bold? Wow, this sounds like one of those things that they do to hype up a console beforehand.
This is a Matt Damon crypto commercial right here, bro.
Yeah, exactly. But for that 1% who dare to be different, and then you reward that, like, that's that type of enthusiasm that gets me hype. And I see that with Zelda. I'm seeing that with Starfield, and I think they're going to pull it off. I think they are.
Because we've all had those moments in the game where we say, oh, can you do that? Can you do that? And then you actually can do it. And then you're like, oh, damn, I've never seen anyone do that in a video game. You have that stupid, dumb idea where it doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things, but them delivering it in the video game can make all the difference with you connecting with that.
Absolutely.
And Starfield seems to be just packed with that. When they tell you at the end that 45 minutes doesn't even scratch the surface of what this game is, that's going to be a dense game. That's going to be a dense game.
Definitely the densest Game Pass drop we've ever gotten.
And then they tease force powers at the end. Like, what's up with that? They say, oh, you going to be able to just force push guys? What?
Yeah, man, all them skill trees. Remember, it's sci-fi, my brother. It's sci-fi.
See, again, like, I was worried there wouldn't be magic and I would just be shooting people, but give me some force powers.
Yeah,
Jedi magic.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
For the guy who's not a fan of Star Wars, Jedi magic. Let's get it.
All right. Before we talk about Fable, quick super chat from X Don the Otaku, who says, can't stay for the show, but Miles, tell Neo to lay off the mayo and finish Tales of Arise. Change his hater ways and bring him to the light.
Boy.
So first up, are you like a Jez Corden, I love mayo kind of character?
Okay,
Is that your
for your esteemed audience, let me explain to you this backstory behind the mayo thing. So I might have been replying to Jez at one point. I don't know, but on my streams, my Ask Neo, which is just our chill hangout session, you know, like people ask me, like we talk about everything, video games to relationships, life advice, food. And you know, someone asked me like, what are some of your favorite condiments when you eat food? And you know, I'll say like, yeah, you know, I love honey mustard. You know, obviously it depends on like the food I'll have. I'll recommend this and that. And then I also said, well, I love Chipotle mayo. I really love Chipotle mayo because it's like a spicier take on mayo. And then for whatever reason, it's like mayo is that trigger word for people where it's like, what? Mayonnaise? You like mayonnaise? What? And I'm like, what? You know, it's all like, yeah, I like mayonnaise. What's wrong with that? And people were just so shocked and surprised, like it was taboo or whatever. And so that's one of the things that my audience, I love them to death, but they never let me live that down. They're like, oh, here comes Dio. You know, everyone's over here buying Xbox controllers and he bought a tub of mayo today. And I was like, why are y'all making stuff up? Why y'all get on the internet and lying like that? And then the last thing I'll say, it didn't help because somebody donated a $20 super chat and made me eat a spoonful of mayo on camera. So that probably added fuel to the fire.
Oh, see, that's like, again, I'm not a mayo hater by any means because I got some hard news for you. Mayo is essentially just eggs and oil.
Thank you.
90% of baked goods that you eat essentially has mayonnaise in it. Did you know you could actually substitute mayonnaise instead of eggs in most recipes?
Look at that.
So I mean, I hate to drop the hard facts on you, but that's you know, don't be hating on mayo. It's an essential part of American cuisine. All right, look at any 1950s cookbook, and you can see what America had to endure. We have one. We have a vintage cookbook, and one of the recipes is, and it makes me almost vomit thinking about it. And I apologize. It is bananas, like 6 bananas laid out, sliced down the middle, and then they fill the middle of the banana with just a mountain of mayonnaise, and then sprinkle some raisins on top. That is a recipe in a 1950s American cookbook. Sliced bananas with mayonnaise and raisin. If you're doing that in this day and age, okay, we got a problem. We do have a problem. If you're putting Chipotle mayonnaise on a sandwich, come on, all right? That just sounds delicious.
It does that, and then like maybe a little bit on the side, you dip some French fries in there. But yeah, so that's the story about that. And then Tales of Arise, it's one of those games that I really loved. And then the last act was such a drag, and it got to the point where the final boss I'd have to level grind in order to beat him. And I'm just like, spend these 5 hours playing another game, doing something. And yeah, that's that. But the hater ways, I don't know what you're talking about because I'm always positive, Don Otaku.
Tales of Arise, banger, love it. One of my favorite modern action RPGs.
Yes.
But the last act is such an exposition dump. Oh
Thank
my
you.
God.
Miss Man is a man hunter.
I was doing the review for Windows Central, and I had to fight every fiber of my being not to mash A through. I was like, this dialogue needs to end. Oh my God. 45 straight minutes of exposition. You ain't Kojima, boy. This ain't working. You're not hitting on that level. It's the typical anime trope where, oh my God, the final villain isn't the final villain. There's a secret other villain all along, and it's been done a million times, and they try to make it impactful and meaningful. And there are moments throughout the story where they do the narrative hits, and so that final just cliche climax really, like, I agree, it drags. That was like my biggest complaint about the game is that final act it's a doozy, dude.
It is. And it's one of those things where if they had just spread out that exposition through the narrative, you wouldn't have that issue. So by the time you hit the end of the game, you're like, oh, it's the end of the game. By the time you hit the end of the game, you're like, wait, why am I sitting down for 45 minutes and y'all explaining me everything that happened that you could have just told me when I was... But yeah, I digress. That's the story behind Tales of Rise and me.
So I get it. I will not argue anyone who has a problem with the final act because... I agree. They could have spaced it out, but instead they said, we need to catch you up on what's going on. So here's 45 minutes of, it's not cutscenes. It's like comic book style dialogue with exposition dumps. And it's, it's a choice.
Definitely a choice.
All right, let's talk about Fable. You brought this up, and Fable's been a weirdly controversial moment at the Xbox
Ooh.
Game Showcase 2023. It kicked off the show. And again, I think it's one of their most anticipated titles. Like you said, Fable is an integral part of Xbox's identity. One of the main reasons people bought an OG Xbox were Fable and Halo. I think that's, or people in the US at least, and a lot of people in Europe as well. Like those were the defining games of the original Xbox. So people want to see a new and improved version of that. I thought the trailer was hilarious. I thought the trailer was, as just a standalone trailer, I thought the trailer was really well done. You had Richard Ayoade. Is that how you say that? From the IT crowd. Hilarious dude as a giant, talking about his vegetable obsession. You have the main character interacting with this giant, the Jack and the Beanstalk style moment. There were really brief glimpses of gameplay. You're clearly running from a giant during a gameplay sequence. There's clearly some combat shown. There's clearly moments where you're exploring the environments. But because it is a very produced, stylized trailer, it's a lot of cuts. They didn't say it was Xbox Series X in the trailer. They said in-engine. There was a little in-engine splash screen. But ahead of this show, Aaron Greenberg said everything first-party wise is in-engine gameplay or in-engine cinematics. And so they said everything there was, not CG, because they've gotten roasted in the past for leaning too heavily into CG. So they made it a point to say everything you're seeing here is in-engine for the most part. So after the Fable trailer, after the show, people are going online and saying, Aaron Greenberg lied. This is not in-engine. This game will not look like this. This is not representative of what Fable will be. And then you had people from Playground Games come out and say, it's actually, it's kind of a compliment for you to say you don't believe that this is gameplay. That you don't believe this is what the game looks like. Because, surprise, I worked on this game. This is what the game looks like running on Xbox Series X. Then you had people saying, well, okay, well then there was no combat. There was no actual gameplay. And then the lead combat animator comes out and says, yeah, here's some of the combat animations I made for Fable in the trailer. And so again, I don't argue with anyone who wanted more. I would have loved to see a gameplay deep dive. Like, again, that's the dream. If we had that trailer and then followed by a Fable gameplay deep dive, there would be zero complaints. There would be zero complaints. But that being said, I still thought the trailer was great. I thought it showed that Fable will be funny. It'll keep that cheeky humor, which is a big part of what Fable is. The chicken kicking for the OG fans, the little callback. I was like, yeah, all right, okay. Respected that. So I'm a little torn because obviously I want to see more gameplay. Obviously, it's hard to take that at face value. But then I think about what Playground has done in the past. I think about the Forza Horizon 5 reveal, where it's the static shot of Mexico. And you're like, why are they just showing like a live feed of Mexico? What's going on? Why is there just a static camera of Mexico? And then the car drives through the water. You're like, oh my God, this is the game. This is gameplay. This is the video game. And then they go on to talk about how we rendered every single needle of each cactus individually. And I say, that is so unnecessary. Why would you do that? That is so unnecessary. But it shows that that's how committed they are to delivering these experiences that look better than anything we've seen before. So it's, while it's okay to be skeptical, I look at what Playground has done and I say, you know what, I think this is indicative of what the game should look like, because we know that their engine and what they can do with that tech can perform on these levels. So where did you feel on the trailer outside of the lack of gameplay? Because clearly you wanted to see more gameplay from Fable.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm through and through. Gameplay is my main MO when it comes to judging video games. Like, cinematic trailers are cool, stylized trailers are great, story trailers, I guess those are cool if you want to be spoiled a bit. But for me, it all comes down to the gameplay, what I'm doing moment to moment. And we didn't get that with Fable. But that being said, just in terms of the visual production, you can't doubt Playground Games. They're right now they're the most consistent studio that Xbox has in terms of their Forza output and just the idea of them doing something different. That expertise going outside of their wheelhouse, I love it. It's part of the reason why I liked when Guerrilla was like, all right, you know what? We're taking a break from Killzone. We're going to do Horizon. And then look what they were able to pull off of Horizon.
And
like the same thing.
A pillar of PlayStation now.
Absolutely. So if you're telling me they're doing that with Fable, it's great. And again, going back to what we were talking about beforehand, the space is like it's just clamoring for just such a goofy, lighthearted fantasy RPG like Fable. There really isn't anything like that right now. Not saying that every single RPG coming out is serious, but just something that is just so quirky and wacky like Fable. And this trailer was a great way to show that. Like you just have it's just like not taking itself seriously. You have one of the best like just funny goofy actors, like British actors working today narrating the trailer, and he's playing a role in it. Like that is awesome. So I know just in terms of that, it's great. I've seen some complaints from folks talking about the art style of the game. It looks way too realistic by comparison to the previous Fable titles. And I do understand that to an extent. But I also think that, well, remember, this is going on 2 generations removed. Like the last Fable game came out, by the time this one comes out, 14 years ago. So, of course, things are going to look very, very different. And yeah, it doesn't look as cartoony as before, but at the same time, it doesn't look super duper realistic. Like you can at least see that, okay, there's something to this. Like there's giants in the world, there's color in the world. And I think as we see more and more, it's still going to be that goofy. I mean, it's still going to look jarring if you just see a Fable character just farting and wafting the air towards somebody else. That's going to look weird. No way you cut it. But at the same time, I feel like you can suspend your belief with the fact that the character models look so much better if everything else surrounding in the world is still as goofy and as quirky. So yeah, I'm still on board with it. Them not showing a release year leads me to believe it is actually going to be 2025. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I've been torn because I've been looking. Xbox has reiterated several times with very recent interviews their goal and roadmap for 4 big games per quarter. 4 big games, and they're saying stuff like, I need to double check this, but I had someone message me a clip from an interview where Matt Booty said that Flight Sim doesn't count as one of those 4 big games per quarter. So then I look at, what's coming out, and there's like, okay, there's Towerborn we know is coming. We know Avowed's coming. We know Hellblade 2 is coming in 2024. What's that 4th game? What's the big holiday game? Because my current speculation is that Hellblade 2 was maybe potentially trying to be the big holiday 2023 game. So there's a chance it comes Q1. I think it's first half. I think both Hellblade 2 and Avowed have a chance to be first half of 2024. You have Microsoft Flight Sim and Fall. You have Towerborn, I think, is another candidate for first half as well. But then I think, again, they're clearly not comfortable putting any date out there, which means if they were confident they could do 2024 at any time, they would have said 2024.
Mm-hmm.
I believe there is a world where maybe they are still targeting holiday 2024. And if not, yeah, definitely into 2025. But again, it's Microsoft's very gun shy about release dates right now because of how much flux there is with release dates. And I don't fault any team for not wanting to put a release date out there unless you know with your full chest that this is hitting. Because we know how people get when you don't deliver on those release dates. People get mad. People get riled up when you don't deliver on that release date. So that being said, that's why Hellblade 2 and Avowed, they're like, we know it's coming in 2024, but we're not even going to give you a window. All right, we're going to give you a year. We're going to give you a year, and then we're going to surprise you with the update. So I think the next time we hear from Avowed and Hellblade 2, we're going to have that date. And I think that date's going to be like 3 months away. And I think that's just the future of most big games now.
Right. And I one thing I would like for them to do is if they are doing these showcases, obviously like most of these showcases are geared towards like the next year or so video games. I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of the games that they showed that say 2024, fingers crossed everything goes according to plan, those are first half 2024. So optimistically, they'd want to get all those games out within the first half. And I think that's fairly reasonable if they drop 2 big games. Obviously, they do want to have a little bit of breathing room after Starfield, so they wouldn't want to launch Avowed as soon as possible. But I could definitely see that being like their spring title, if you will, maybe May, maybe June, something like that, depending on what it calls for. If it doesn't hit that date, it doesn't hit that date. Push it, delay it until it works out. But yeah, I do think that they are playing their cards to the chest. They're more conservative this time around as opposed to what they did last year, saying like, this is what you can expect in the next 12 months, because we saw not every game hit that. But yeah, I think there is room for surprises. And also like, I'm interested to see like what their disambiguation, like what they mean for those big quarterly titles. Like Towerborn isn't necessarily something that I personally
are they counting that? And I don't know that they are, because they're going to have other partner projects, but I don't know that because when Matt Booty and the team talks about the big games per quarter. They seem to suggest those mean new AAA releases.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
And that's what a lot of us interpret that as. So I assume when he says that Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024 doesn't count, I would assume, even though Towerborn looks great, I think Towerborn was one of my favorite moments of the show. I don't know that counts either. As like a big.
I would say, more with Flight Simulator, I would think that wouldn't count because technically, even though it is a new game that they're launching with all these new updates and this content, it's still working off the foundation of a game that people are still playing right now on Game Pass, which is Flight Simulator. And that launched back in 2021. So I think maybe that might be, I could be wrong. Maybe he doesn't want to label, if we're going to do like a new Flight Simulator game, that's why we're not calling it like one of those releases. Maybe, but it could just be that he doesn't consider Flight Simulator in the same conversation as like a Hellblade or Avowed, maybe.
And again, there's so much mixed messaging.
Yeah.
And I think they're really like, they have this goal, they have this tentative roadmap, and they're trying to do their best to cobble it together. And they have to kind of like pick and choose when those things count. Because like, technically we got 4 big ones. Towerborn, Flight Sim, Avowed, and Hellblade. That's it. There's your 4. But I don't think that that's what they're talking about when they message, because we already had Phil Spencer say during the XCast interview that Hellblade 2 and Avowed would be the games in the quarters that follow Starfield, was the wording.
Mm-hmm.
So that suggests those are, at least on paper right now, the next big games for those 2 quarters. So theoretically, Q1 and Q2 would be Hellblade 2 and Avowed, or Avowed and Hellblade 2. What I would love is that in January, they do another developer direct, they give us the gameplay, and they give us dates for those 2, at least, and then looks at something else. And if they can keep that momentum where we have the big showcase in June, we have a couple announcements at Gamescom and the Game Awards, and the developer direct in January, boom. That is a solid-ass way to message games to your audience and let them know when they can play them, because I'm not a big fan of arbitrary dates. I hate when a publisher just says, all right, we're going to put this date out into the world, and then, it's like a year out, and we all know, come on, dude, you don't know that. You don't know that you can hit that date. And so I don't mind. I really don't mind that we are getting release dates much closer to launch. What I would love, and it's almost impossible to do, is if they could have that beautiful, perfect moment where they announce a game 3 months before launch and then give you that date. And boom! Here's a new game. You're playing it in 3 months. Oh, nothing hits better outside of a Shadow Drop, outside of like Hi-Fi Rush. We're like, you're playing this right now. But that is like we should not expect that. That is so hard to do.
It is. And just the fact that they were able to pull that off with Fallout 4 is a testament to just like a perfect storm at the time. And also because back then leaks weren't as prevalent as they are now. Like back then, it just like, leaks happen. They definitely did, but not to the point now where everything is just scrutinized with a microscope. And every single time someone updates their LinkedIn, you have people looking into that. And of course, that's just like our small segment of the internet who just does that research. It's not like the grand scheme of people. But yeah, it takes it's a game development is a lot of moving parts. And then announcing a game, even more moving parts added into the mix. Like, so if they were to do something like that, it would be sick. And I mean, I wouldn't be surprised, like once we get back to like some sense of proper normalcy with development, we might see that at some point. I mean, they got a lot of teams now, and all those teams are at least working on 1 or 2 projects simultaneously. So I think there's definitely room for hey, let's announce this, and you're playing it in 3 months. I think they just don't want to, because anything can go wrong just in this pipeline of like, hey, some people are back in the office, but some people are still at home, and then contractors and everything there. But yeah,
and
either way,
it's the good. Bigger games like a Starfield, for example, you want the marketing machine. You want as much lead up as you can possibly get, because as we know, Starfield is it's the biggest Xbox game. It's one of the biggest games of the year. And there's a lot of energy, and you can't just shadow drop that. Like you're not going to get that boost to Xbox engagement, console sales, etc. if you just shadow drop Starfield. So I understand that balance, and it's a tougher and tougher balance as we have release dates that you can't market, because traditionally you'd have Halo is coming out this date. We know this date a year out. We are hitting this date. We're partnering with Doritos. We're partnering with Mountain Dew. We have all these companies making merchandise and cross-promotional materials to hit that date. They tried to do that with Halo Infinite, and then we had this weird world where all of the Halo Doritos were out all of the Halo
Yeah.
merch was out, but then Halo
Yep.
wasn't out.
That was an interesting experience going into the grocery store saying Halo Infinite, play it fall 2020. And I was like, oh god, in what multiverse?
Ooh, an alternate timeline. We could have been
Yep.
playing whatever Halo Infinite was in 2020 and eating Doritos, just like the
Oh,
good old days.
Doritos Mountain Dew, call back to 8 years ago. Our favorite food streamer rages at video games eating
Yeah,
raviolis.
hell
Yes,
yeah.
sir.
All right, I want to get to two more questions before we get on out of here regarding the Xbox Game Showcase.
Yeah.
First,
Yeah.
what was your moment? What was the biggest or your favorite moment at the Xbox Game Showcase?
Oh, wow. Okay. So, I mean, obviously, I'm excited for things like Fable, but if I had to pick a moment that I did not see coming whatsoever, it was the announcement of Metaphor ReFantasio, because we had known, because it had leaked, unfortunately, that Xbox was going to have the announcement for Persona 3 Reload and Persona 5 Tactica. We knew that was happening. So when it showed up on the showcase, I was like, okay, cool. But then they just pull up and say, listen, we got one more thing coming from Atlas, and it's a brand new game from the Persona heads, and they're showing gameplay for it. And this game is coming out next year. And I'm just like, where did this come from? What, you're debuting a brand new, and it's not like it was just like a little side sort of game. Like, no, this is a brand new, full-on, full-scaled RPG from the Atlas team debuting on the Xbox Showcase. That is huge, because we went from a time where, up until just a few years ago, there was no Atlas RPGs on Xbox worth noting. And then all of a sudden, Sega's like, hey, here are the Yakuza games. Yakuza games done well. Okay, you know what? We're going to bring the Persona games over. Those games do well. You know what? Here's more Persona games. We're announcing a new Persona 5 spinoff, a Persona 3 remake, and you know what? A new RPG. Like, that is huge for the Xbox brand. Like, regardless of it being multi-platform, just the fact that they are making these deals with Sega Atlas, the fact that they're having this on the showcase and they're showing it to the masses, saying like, hey, this is our commitment. Like, we're doing our due diligence. We're giving you guys the games. So it falls on us to support it, which is what I always tell people. Like people like me, Mr. Matty Plays, Sixers Octavian, we're all out here saying like, if you want JRPGs on Xbox, support them. And they just threw people a huge bone saying like, dude, we got Atlas to give us their new game announcement. Like, that is awesome. So that for me was the moment of the show, because I was genuinely shocked. Like, I never thought in my wildest world, like, they'd probably put that at like a PlayStation showcase or just randomly announce it. And it's like, no, here it's on the Xbox showcase. So that's even though I love Starfield and I'm more excited for Starfield as a game, that just blew my mind, just seeing Metaphor ReFantasio.
Dude, I love that. Because last year Xbox came out and they said, hey, we're working with Japanese creators. We understand historically we haven't done the best job. We are working hard to establish relationships, build new relationships, build new games. And we saw the Kojima announcement, and we saw Persona coming to Xbox, and that was a huge deal. That was a really huge moment. And I wanted Xbox to continue to demonstrate that. Saying it once is cool. Having a few Game Pass drops is cool. But I love that they didn't even have to mention it this time. They just showed it. They just demonstrated. We got Path of the Goddess, a brand new Capcom IP. We had Metaphor ReFantasio, a new Atlas RPG. We had Persona 3 Reload. We had Persona 5 Tactica. We had Like a Dragon, Infinite Wealth.
All
Xbox
cheeks.
demonstrated that, hey, we have cool Japanese games. We are working with the best Japanese developers and publishers on the planet to make sure that these games come to Xbox. And I see that and I say, yes, keep that up. Keep that energy up, because Phil Spencer's touched on this. It is a lot of work. Some of it is exclusivity. Some of it is PlayStation obviously wants Final Fantasy. PlayStation is throwing as much money as possible at Final Fantasy. Square Enix is just gobbling that money up and saying, all right, if you want to keep giving us money, we'll keep taking it. But Phil Spencer understands that that's not the only problem. That's not the only problem with Xbox and Japanese creators. So they are tangibly demonstrating to the world that they are taking this seriously. And I want them to keep that up, because again, some of my favorite games of all time come from Japan. The reason that video games are where they are now are because of iconic Japanese games. Japan is such a fundamental pillar of video games as a medium. And so not having that as part of your platform, regardless of where you stand, like some people say, oh, Rand, infamously, I don't care about JRPGs. whatever, Rand, that's not what it's about. You can't take yourself seriously in the gaming space and ignore Japan, in my eyes, because of their historical impact on video games. So seeing those, that was so cool. So I was excited about that, but my kind of best in show moment was the reveal of South of Midnight from Compulsion Games. Because we know Compulsion's been cooking. And we know Compulsion has had very independent releases. With Contrast, We Happy Few. We Happy Few had a lot of problems. It still has one of my favorite introductions ever in a video game. And it has such a great sense of style. And Compulsion has always demonstrated this really distinct sense of style and creativity. Even Contrast, one of their early games, I remember playing that at IndieCade 2013, and I remember being taken aback by this Montreal-based indie developer that created this world and this style I had never seen in a game before. And there was a lot of potential. And so when Compulsion got acquired by Xbox, that was one of the teams I looked at and said, there's huge potential here. There are huge possibilities with Compulsion, because Compulsion has always had great ideas and a great sense of style, just has never had the means to execute on that. They've always been indie. They've always punched above their weight in my eyes. And so to see them get the Microsoft bag of resources to really chase an idea, and to see that idea manifest as this American Gothic Deep South horror folklore game, third person action, that was a really standout moment. And the fact that they doubled down on that style, the presentation was so distinct, so beautiful. And then just the icing on the cake was the Nightmare Before Christmas and Coraline stop animation motion. Oh, if that is how the game looks in action, I'm going to be in heaven. That game looked so good. That is the trailer I've watched the most times. That's the game I can't stop thinking about as what it could be.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, I'm just like, full transparency. I watched that trailer and I was like, all right, well, that looks good.
Yeah, it doesn't
Oh,
tell you much
okay.
about the world or the...
Yeah, I mean, we appreciate a good art style over here on these parts. Around these parts, we appreciate that. So, like I said, I'm willing to give any and everything that's shown off at these showcases a shot. Even if it doesn't even end up being my kind of game, like that's one of the benefits of being a gamer. You just give it a chance, and it might become your next favorite game. And at the very least, the barrier of entry is so low with Game Pass that it's like, okay, let's see what this is all about. And something like Compulsion, it's just like, bro, this is coming from the same family that bought Bethesda, and they're also doing that. You know what I'm saying? Like, some of our studios are doing Fable, some of our studios are doing Starfield. Some of them put out a Hi-Fi Rush, some of them put out this. Some of them are in Exile. Like, there's a lot of good variety going around where it's just like, it might not be for me, but I'm down with it.
And my final question on the Xbox Game Showcase is,
yes,
what was the biggest miss or the thing that was missing that most bummed you out?
So I have two. Can I cheat?
You can cheat. You can definitely cheat.
Right. So obviously, the biggest thing that was missing, in my honest opinion, was what's going on with the Halo franchise. So obviously, there's everything that's been happening with Halo Infinite as a game. There's everything that's happening with 343 as a studio. I feel like this would have been a good opportunity, even if it's early in production or whatever, to show what they've got cooking for the Halo franchise. I know people ain't gonna agree with that. Some people are gonna say, well, no, wait, like people, they don't need to talk about Halo right now, but it's still one of your pillars. And the fact that, even though I'm excited for Starfield, the fact that now Starfield is going to become the de facto face of Xbox while Halo is just floundering, that's very strange to me. That would be like if Mario wasn't a thing at Nintendo anymore. And it's just so strange because this is the brand that built the Xbox platform. And just to see the lack of respect, or it's just like the weirdest thing. It's like we're treating Halo like it's this indie studio where, oh man, how do we make a game? How do we do this? How do we do that? So not seeing anything related to Halo, or at least giving a proper update about where the franchise is going, its direction, all of those things, was a misfire in my opinion. But talked about something that was not good at the showcase all. Ooh, their one last thing before Starfield, bro. Their one last thing before they showed off Starfield.
You talking about the Series S?
I'm talking about that Xbox Series S 1 terabyte edition.
That was not I'm like, it's cool for new audiences, but that was not hype. I'm the same way. I was like, "Oh, hell yeah. We're getting ready for the one more thing moment, baby. We're
Yeah.
getting," I was like, a black 1 terabyte Xbox Series S. I was like, Phil.
And that also combined with like the console is going to be more expensive. Like I get it, it's 1 terabyte of storage, but the benefit about the Series S more than anything was its $299 price point. Just what you need to do with that is you need to work down. You don't need to go up with that console. So if they were to come out and say that we have this $299 1 terabyte Series S and that's the new de facto Series S, I'd be like, okay, perfect, awesome. Like that's a great way to get people invested into Starfield. But when you're telling me like that thing is going to be $350, that puts it dangerously close to the price of a PS5. And obviously they're targeting two different demographics, but for some person out there who just buys a console and they just leave it under there, if they see that console for $350 and then they see a whole PS5, they're just like, well, why would I need this Xbox One for cheaper? So to me, it was not a good one last thing. It was not a good one last thing at all. I just like that could have been a blog post. That could have been something that they had done for a different showcase or even before their one last thing. But just that, like, why?
Yeah, that reveal to me felt like, hey, if you're watching this as someone who's not in the Xbox ecosystem, you can buy this and play Starfield. That's what it felt like. You don't have an Xbox yet, you can buy this for $350 and you can play Starfield for $350. That was what that felt like. And again, I understand that from a marketing perspective, but I do agree the $350 price point, you know, it's got 1 terabyte, which is cool, but if they could hit that at $299, now that we know SSD pricing is coming down, if they could hit that at $299,
Yeah,
and make the original even cheaper, $250 and $299, like then that value becomes it's already an incredible deal. It really is an incredible value. But we all know the PlayStation 5, for the people in tune, is more powerful, like significantly more powerful than the Series S. And when there's only a $50 difference in that, it's less compelling. But that being said, if you don't have an Xbox, you want to play Starfield, that is an entry point. And that's what they want. They want more SKUs, they want more shelf space. And again, as gamers, those boring realities aren't exciting. So for that to be the one more thing, I was like, I get it. I do get it from a business perspective. As a fan perspective, that wasn't Killer Instinct, that wasn't Banjo, that wasn't a tease that got me, reeling over possibilities. That was you trying to sell me something I already have. But
yeah, like if you want to talk about getting the fans excited, like bringing back some iconic franchises and legacy IP, where was 1 versus 100, Phil Spencer?
Yo, what's the deal?
1v100. Now is the time. Strike while the iron is hot. You want to talk about people ain't gonna sell their PS5s? People sell their PS5s and they get a 1 versus 100 reboot.
That's what you took away 1 versus 100. You took away Avatar, Netflix watch parties. What's going on?
Talk to him.
You used to be the king. You used to be the undisputed champion.
They used to have
We
swagger.
lost it. Doritos Crash Course is gone. 1 versus 100 is gone.
Yep.
Netflix Avatar watch parties are gone. Achievements where you could unlock Avatar drip. Remember playing Left 4 Dead and getting some sick ass Left 4 Dead shoes for your avatar?
Yeah. Where's Fusion Frenzy? Where is Fusion Frenzy Reborn? That's what I want to know. These are questions that need answers, and the people at Xbox get billions of dollars, and they don't seem to want to answer these questions.
That was the one thing that was missing for me, was that fan service moment. Xbox has done a really good job about fan service teases, callbacks, backwards compatibility, new reveals. That was the one thing I was hoping for, is even if it was just a tease of Killer Instinct or Banjo or something to indicate that those are still important franchises that still are being considered or actively worked on. Even if it was nothing, even if it was just a stupid logo with music, just that would have been enough. But we didn't really get any mega fan service moments. I mean, I guess Fable, you could count as a fan servicey type moment, but in terms of new reveals, it wasn't there. That was the one thing that felt like it. I still think the show was a confident A. I still think this was an excellent show, but that would have just popped it into A+ or even S tier if we just got that.
I'm telling you. I'm telling you, any showcase with a 1 versus 100 revival is S tier in my opinion. I don't care what
Standing up
people
in my
say,
chair,
man.
screaming, dude.
Screaming, doing all types of handstands, everything, ripping shirts open like this. Yeah, it's just a fun game, man. Listen, you announce a 1 versus 100 revival, watch the world begin to heal, and watch those Game Pass subs go up. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, you're gonna gain 50 mil in a day. 50
In an
mil
hour.
in an hour.
In an hour, that's it.
I know you're trying to hit 50 million. You can gain 50 million instantly with a back-to-back announcement of Fusion Frenzy Reborn and 1 versus 100.
Yes, I'm telling you. Listen, I'm gonna get to crafting these spreadsheets right now.
I got a 45-page document ready to go. All right.
There we go.
All right, Neo. Let's wrap it up. We've had a lot of fun.
All right.
But it's a Saturday. I know we got stuff to do, so I don't want to keep you too much longer. But I really appreciate you hanging out, man. This was a fun show. We had some fun topics.
Yes.
So one more time for the folks rocking with us, where can they get a hold of you, man?
Of course. Well, you got to fight my girlfriend if you want to get a hold of me physically. But as far as where y'all can find me, youtube.com/NeoGameSpark and twitter.com/NeoGameSpark. Twitter is my preferred social media outlet. That's where I like to congregate. On my YouTube channel, we do a variety of videos. We do live streams, chill sessions, all manner of things, fun times to be had. And yeah, I really want to thank the homie Miles Dompier for having me on the stream, Xbox Chaturdays. It's been a long time coming. I'm so happy and thankful that we were able to make this happen. And to all the people out there, give my man Miles. So first things first, make sure y'all like the video if you haven't already. Like the stream right now. Listen, I'm gonna call some of your people out right now. Hold up 1 second. This will be the last thing that I do before I go. But looking at the stream right now, we got 142 people watching and we got 80 likes. We got to get those likes up. Get those likes up.
Pump those numbers up.
Pump those are rookie numbers. Pump that up. Y'all be talking about Starfield and Xbox in the comment section, yet you can't support the homies who do this entertainment for you. So go ahead and do that for the homie Miles. Subscribe to this man. Follow him on Twitter. Support your favorite content creators, because when we win, when one person wins and we find success, we all win. That's what it's all about, y'all. No competition.
Exactly. We're all here to have fun. We're all sharing in this together. So it's, it's shared success. It's shared energy. Anytime I see somebody like Neo on Unlocked, I'm like, oh, hell yeah. There we go. More people need to see this, man. And so, it took too long. I should have reached out sooner, but I'm excited. We got to get you on an episode, get you in the books, in the book of the Chatterday lore. It's official now. So appreciate you, man. Appreciate everyone who tunes in, supports the show each and every week. And with that being said, we're going to get on out of here. Have an amazing weekend, and we'll catch you next week. Take care, everybody.
Peace out, y'all.